matter of Kurtz versus Mansfield. Step forward, please.
Engineer Andrew Kurtz is suing teacher Carolyn Mansfield for car repair bills. Andrew says Carolyn's unleashed dog ran into his Porsche.
Mr. Kurtz, you were driving along a country road, and according to your complaint, the defendant's dog was running out and hit your car. And you want Miss Mansfield to be responsible for the $1,000 deductible that you had to pay after your insurance covered the rest of the damage to the car.
That's correct.
Miss Mansfield says that you had to have been going too fast on that road, that your car hit her dog, and that she paid over $1,200 in vet bills for the dog. And since you were probably each at fault, since the dog was out, which is how the dog came to collide with your car in the first place, she's taking care of her bills and you should take care of yours, right?
That's absolutely right.
Well, that's your position anyway.
Yes, well, it is my position.
Where do you live?
I live in Placerville, California.
Are there any rules and regulations where you live with regard to dogs being leashed or being confined in either a yard or your home?
I understand there is a leash law. There's supposed to be.
Yes. So your dog, I assume, does not comply with the leash law.
My dog complies whenever she can. However, there are some holes in my neighbor's fence, and occasionally the dog has gotten into the neighbor's yard. On the day in question, I did not know the dog was out of our yard. In fact, my husband and I were getting ready to go to a Christmas party. It's December 21st, about 4 o'clock, and I turned to my son and I said, "We're getting ready to go to the party now. See you later." And Charlie said, "Well, I'm going out to the backyard to play with the dogs." And I turned around, I saw one of our...
How many dogs do you have?
Two. And I saw
what
one
kind
of
of dogs are...
Pardon?
What kind of dogs are they?
They're mutts. They were both strays that eventually showed up, and we just didn't quite get them to the pound, and now they're ours.
And how long have you had them?
7 years.
And how often does this particular dog get out of your yard?
Well, anymore, not at all, but...
Then,
at that time, pretty often.
Okay. So you were on notice that your dog knew how to get out.
But my dog, this is the truth, Judge Judy, my dog was extremely streetwise. I know that sounds crazy, but this dog had grown up, had about 2 years in this area. It was a wild dog. We had seen it around, and I decided to try to tame the dog so that I could catch it. Animal control would not pick it up unless we could contain it. So over a period of about 6 months, I was able to tame the dog, and by then I just kind of fell in love with her. She has absolutely become a part of our family, and this dog never ran into the road or in front of a car. The dog would literally go to a driveway and look both ways before it crossed. People would note that. It's incredibly smart, or it couldn't have survived the 2 years in this neighborhood where people would come up from the Bay Area in their fancy sport cars driving really fast.
Miss Mansfield, listen to me very carefully. We're getting a little beyond ourselves.
Okay, but I have some pictures for you.
We're getting beyond us. Now, what time of the day were you riding down the country road?
It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Where were you going?
Going to an apple orchard.
In December?
Shh. Miss Mansfield.
Yes,
Miss Mansfield. Okay.
Is the weekend before Christmas. We're going up there to get some apple cider and some apple pies.
Okay. Tell me what happened with Miss Mansfield's dog.
I was driving along the road, and the dog just came straight out into the road, and it was in full stride when I hit the dog with the car.
Did you stop?
Yeah, I just took my foot off the gas and watched the dog in the rearview mirror. My fiancée, Christina, was just like, oh my God, we just hit a dog. And then I pulled over at the first point that I could pull fully clear of the roadway.
And what did you do? Put your pictures down.
Okay.
We got out of the car and walked back towards where the dog had limped off the roadway, and I walked back into the woods. At that point, I met an old man and a young boy there. I asked them if they saw a dog. I told them I just hit a big black dog, and he said that it sounded like the neighbor's dog, and then we found it just laying on its side.
And what did you do?
The man sent the young boy down to the Mansfield's residence to get someone to come up to the dog. We just stood there with the dog, and it was just laying on its side, panting. And then Charlie, her son, brought a pickup truck up, and we put a blanket down, put the dog on the blanket, and lifted the dog into the back of the truck.
Okay. Can I see pictures of your car? I see
Yes.
that you have pictures of the car there. I'm surprised that what's this dog's name, Lucky?
Lucky.
He sure was lucky.
Well,
because I'm surprised that this dog survived.
Lucky was not supposed to survive overnight. She had severe injuries.
Okay, but she did?
She's among the land of the living.
Good, and she's now in a fenced-in yard.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're using the buried wire with the electric shock, and she's
That sounds like what you should have been using before.
And that's exactly why I paid my own vet bills, and I decided I would not sue somebody for hitting the dog because I was trying to take my responsibility and pay the dog's vet
Ms.
bills.
Mansfield, you have a law where you live that says that dogs have to be under your control at all times, either on a leash if they're out, in a fenced yard, or in your home. But for the fact that you broke the law, your dog would not have been hit.
Mm-hmm. May I show you some of these pictures and explain one thing?
You can show me anything you like.
Okay.
You must accept the fact that but for the fact that you broke the rules, your dog would not have been hit.
Okay, but I contend the dog may not have been in the road. We have a friend who was killed right there where Mr. Kurtz pulled over. He ran right into that tree. If you don't negotiate that turn, you're going to hit that tree. And in fact, before you hit it, you will go straight over our neighbor's driveway.
Listen to me.
Needs to lay down.
Miss Mansfield, I don't care if he went up into your neighbor's living room.
But that would be private
listen to me.
Okay.
If he went up into your neighbor's living room and hit your dog, the rule says your dog must be under your control at all times. But for the fact that you, who had notice that your dog got out frequently and roamed around and was safe most of the time. Most of the time, she was really smart and really lucky. Didn't hurt anybody, didn't get hurt herself. This time she did, and it's your fault.
Okay,
listen to me. Only your fault because his car did not jump up on your front porch and go into your living room and hit Lucky while she was sitting on the sofa watching TV. That didn't happen.
Excuse me, but if it was going at an unsafe speed in a residential area, it could have been Dylan. It could have been the little boy at the end of the driveway with my dog.
It could have been E.T.
But it wasn't.
It was your dog that was violating the law. You owe him $1,000. That's his deductible.
Could my son,
Judgment for the plaintiff. Step out. Goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank you, Judge.
Occasionally dogs get out. If people are driving the way they're supposed to, they should be able to stop.
The dog has to be on a leash or you're going to be liable for the damage that it causes.
My dog suffered great injuries.
It's a tragedy what happened, really.
I spent 3 months doing physical rehabilitation on the dog.
It's been a lot of time and from my side, too, and money.
I couldn't work. I mean, I had to work with this dog for 3 months to get it back to life.
It was very scary.
I just think she deserved a little more justice than that.
I felt awful. Awful for the dog.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Abernathy versus Millard. Step forward, please.
Flight attendant Ellen Abernathy is suing her former friend, Jill Millard, for her share of a European vacation. Jill says she paid her back with babysitting.
Miss Abernathy, I gather from your complaint that you and the defendant used to be very good friends.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your lawsuit claims that the defendant owes you money for her expenses for a European trip, for a piece of jewelry that she purchased there that she put on your credit card, and for a loan that you made her for an attorney while she was going through some matrimonial difficulties.
Yes, Your Honor, that's right.
So, you were going on this trip to celebrate a milestone birthday.
Is
that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, 50 is the new 30.
I like that. That's right.
I agree with you. That's the way it is.
Yes.
So you were going to Europe for your 50th birthday?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was going?
Myself and my husband, Bill, my son, Alex, who was 10 years old at the time, and his best friend, who was 10 years old at the time.
Where were you going?
We went to Zurich, took the train to Florence, went to Cortona, my favorite, Assisi. I saved and planned for 10 years for this trip. It was very, very important to me.
Sounds like a beautiful trip.
It was wonderful.
Under what circumstances did Miss Millard join you on the trip?
My middle son was not able to go on the trip with us, and so I had a ticket that I was going to turn back in, and Miss Millard said, I've never been to Italy and I've always wanted to go. Can I go along? She was my friend at the time, and I said, well, I have the ticket, but you know, with your finances, can you afford to pay for your part of the trip? So long story short, she said that when she got back from the trip and got on her feet job-wise, that she would pay me back.
Okay.
So that was fine.
Okay. The ticket that you had for your son that
Yes.
you were going to turn back in, was it a refundable ticket?
Well, it was refundable in that I used my frequent flyer miles, and I was just going to turn it back in to have the miles refunded to my account.
Okay. So the expenses that you're talking about are the hotel expenses and the meal expenses, not the plane ticket.
Exactly.
So you're really asking her for the money for her share of the expenses for the trip, not for the plane ticket.
That's right.
Okay. And that was, according to you, your agreement.
Yes.
Now, what happened when you got there with regard to this piece of jewelry that you're suing her for?
We were in Assisi, and they had a very specialty jewelry shop that had Etruscan-type jewelry. And Miss Millard came into the shop and was very taken with a couple of different pieces of jewelry. She did say, I really can't afford this. I really shouldn't get this, but I'll never see jewelry like this again. And I said, well, if you want the jewelry, you can pay me back for it. I understand. She was my friend. I wanted her to have something nice if she wanted it, but I could not afford to get it for her. And so she chose some jewelry, and I went ahead and put it on my credit card with the understanding that she would pay me back for it.
When you say you had the understanding, did you say that to her?
Yes, I did. My husband was in the shop at the time, and he heard that.
And how much was the jewelry?
It was $394.89.
Okay. What were her expenses?
Her expenses were $2,200. That is for 20 days of hotel.
So about $100 a day.
Yes, ma'am. That's very inexpensive to
Very.
stay in Europe.
Okay. Plus the $394.
Yes, ma'am, but I had tried several times to call her, and she would either not return my call, or she would return my call and say, don't bother me about this right now. I don't have any money to pay you. So I called her and I said, I'm really sorry it's come to this, but I'm going to have to take you to small claims court. I don't want to do this. I've waited until September, and it had been since the end of June when we had returned. And so she sent me a money order for $100 and a card that was not very complimentary to me.
I see it.
Yes, ma'am. I had told her I felt that she had looked at me as an opportunity, not as a friend, and she took...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This card, this shows that she's sending you something. She
Yes.
didn't feel as if friendship was all about money. Clearly to you, she says it was all about money. Whatever. When did you advance her this money for an attorney?
It was in the early part of 2004.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding that.
She had phoned me very upset and said that her ex-fiancé was pressing her about personal issues and making all these charges against her, which I did not believe were true. And so she asked me if I would please help her. She didn't know who to call. She needed an attorney. And I said, I know someone who may be able to help you, but they'll need money. No attorney is going to take your case for nothing. And she said she didn't have any money. I said, well, I can help you. I'll loan the money to you, but you have to pay me back. I cannot afford just to pay your attorney's fees. She said, I'll do anything. I just need that attorney.
Okay. So I'm ready to hear you. Let's start with the attorney's fees because that came first.
Okay. I was in a very serious circumstance and I needed some help.
You even needed money.
Yes. And she was very kind in helping me in that particular instance. And
So is what you're telling me, Miss Millard, that you expected her to pay this $2,500 and that you would not be paying her back?
Oh, no, no, no.
So you're now telling me that you agree that the $2,500 was a loan?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you didn't say that in your answer. What you said was that the attorney was her idea and it was not a loan.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. Who did you expect to pay for that?
Well, before we went on the trip, we had an agreement. Her middle son could not go on the trip, and so I was kind of a fill-in. He had already been accounted for all the expenses, so the expenses mostly were already paid for. So
No, that's not true. There's food.
Right. So what
That food wasn't paid for.
I agreed that I would be responsible, that I had brought cash and would exchange for euros once we got to...
How many dollars did you cash for euros and give to her?
I believe I cashed $200 in American dollars, and I gave them 60 euros.
That's what you're telling me, that you gave her 60 euros for 20 days that you were in Europe?
No, not for 20 days, for the 3 days that I couldn't get to the bank. And the rest
Well,
of
what
that
happens
time,
after you went to the bank?
I was paying for my own meals.
How were you doing that?
With my own euros.
Now let's get to the jewelry. What happened with the jewelry?
We were in Assisi, and we went into this jewelry shop, and she said, oh, come and look at this beautiful jewelry. But I knew that I couldn't afford any of the jewelry. And so she said, well, how about if you pick out these pieces? And I brought the pieces. And then once we get home, we'll set up a way for you to pay me back in increments, because she knew when I got home that I would be starting a new job.
So it was a loan?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's not what you say in your answer. You say that it was a gift. So now you're telling me, Miss Millard, that it was, in fact, a loan. Did you start paying her back?
Yes, the reference to the $100 money order was first part of the installment.
Well, you owe her $4,994 in addition to this $100. So what you're telling me is you acknowledge the debt.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $4,994.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I had a fabulous vacation, and I had hoped that everyone who was with me had a fabulous vacation.
Spending a long time with a friend in one place is taxing on a friendship.
But unfortunately, I guess not everyone did.
It's sad that I really enjoyed our friendship, and I miss my friend.
Be careful who you vacation with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Barclay versus Korn. Step forward.
Child care provider Mary Barclay is suing her former client, Marie Korn, for unpaid babysitting fees. Marie says Mary's home wasn't a safe environment for her children.
Miss Barclay, you were hired by Miss Korn to babysit for her children. And according to you, you had the following arrangement. She was receiving money from the state for child care, I gather, because of her income. And you were to receive money from the state to take care of the children. In addition, according to you, you claim that you had an agreement that if you babysat additional periods of time, she would pay you over and above what the state paid. It is your claim that you were paid by the state, but were not paid for the overtime that you worked for Miss Korn. That's what your case is about.
Yes.
And Ms. Korn says that you were paid everything that was agreed upon, which was the amount of money that the state paid for babysitting, and she removed the children because of what she perceived to be inadequate care. Ms. Barclay, do you babysit for a living? Do you have daycare facility?
I babysit other children in my home.
And how many children?
Probably 3. I watch my grandsons a lot.
How many grandsons do you have?
2.
And how many children did Ms. Korn have?
2.
So you had 4 children in your house. Mm-hmm. When did you start to babysit for Ms. Korn's children?
March 19th, I do believe.
And when did you cease babysitting for her?
August 10th, 2004.
How many days a week?
5 days a week.
What time to what time?
Her hours varied.
And did you fill out a timesheet for the state?
Yes, I did.
And were you paid according to that timesheet?
I was paid for the state's part.
What do you mean you were paid for the state's part?
The state only allows a certain amount of hours a month to be paid.
And how many hours is that?
180.
So it's about 8 or 9 hours a day. Is that right?
Or more.
Okay, so let me hear.
Well, I babysit a lot longer than that. She is responsible for anything that the state did not pay.
Show me your agreement with her, Miss Barclay.
We don't have a written agreement, but I told her that she was responsible for anything that the state did not pay.
And what did she say to you?
She said, okay.
Well, in the month of April of 2004, did you babysit more than the 180 hours?
Yes, I did.
Did she pay you any money?
No.
In the month of May, did you babysit for more than the 180 hours?
Yes.
Did she pay you any money?
No.
In June, did she pay you any money?
No.
Yes.
Well,
Yes. I paid a co-payment.
She paid me $25, but not until July 9th.
What was the $25 for?
That was a co-payment.
What is a co-payment?
The state paid a certain amount, and I was responsible for $25.
Just $25. Is that what it says in your state contract?
That's what it said, yes. They sent me a form saying I owed her $25 for my co-payment.
How much did you receive from the state each full month that you babysat for the children?
The most they would pay me is $594.
So $600 a month. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I assume you got the maximum each month.
Yes.
And at the same time, you were home with your 2 grandsons. Is that right? So you were home anyway and making an extra $600. Now, did you have an agreement with Ms. Barkley to pay her money over and above what the state paid?
Yes.
And how much were you supposed to pay her?
I don't know. We asked her several times for a figure, and she never gave me the hours.
So when for the first time did she ask you for additional money?
About June.
And tell me about the conversation.
She said that she was having problems having her house payment, making her house payment, and she needed the extra money then, and asked me when I could pay it. My husband asked her for the hours that we owed her, and she did not give it to him several times. He asked her.
Did you have an agreement to pay her additional hours prior to June?
Yes.
So you owe her for the additional hours?
Not as much as she says.
Did you have her, Miss Barkley, for the months that you babysat, sign something at the end of each month indicating the number of hours that you worked?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
I don't have that copy, but I have the receipt from the state that shows all the hours and the amount I billed and how much that...
Well, let me see.
And here's a breakdown of it.
I don't want to break down. I want to see what the state sent you. That's very simple. Not what you wrote for this case, but what the state sent you. Oh, well, it's very easy because it says here, parent amount. Okay. Since you acknowledged that you had an arrangement with her that you were going to make payments over and above what the state paid her for the time that she watched the children during the hours that you were supposed to be working, you acknowledged that.
Right.
And the state authorized certain payments, and you acknowledged that you were supposed to pay her what the state did not authorize. You owe her $1,315 unless there was a reason why you shouldn't pay it. Is there?
At the time, my kids were not in a safe environment. She was not just watching her grandchildren and my children. There was a 13-year-old there who was hitting and kicking my daughter.
When did you find out about that?
My daughter came home and had a bruise on her stomach.
When?
That was in June.
She continued to babysit, according to this,
did.
until August. So one of your children came home with a bruise in her stomach, and you let her stay there?
As long as the 13-year-old wasn't there.
Well, when did you have a discussion with her about the 13-year-old?
She's the one that told me that she let her do it because my daughter has a problem with her mouth.
No, I don't allow other kids to hit kids in my care, Your Honor. That is definitely forbidden with me.
I've seen it.
Well, listen to me.
Hello.
Listen to me. I can't believe that a normal parent, if she felt as if her children were being abused in your home, would leave your children there.
It happened once, Your Honor.
Well, then you didn't think it was so serious.
At the time, I thought my daughter had lied to me.
Well, then that's
what
not
I
a
thought.
reason not to pay her the money that you owed her.
But then when my husband asked her to account for the hours, she couldn't.
Well, now we
And
know
my-
that the state's accounted for the hours. Say anything?
Yes, I do.
Say it fast.
We'd like to say there was 3 or 4 times that the kids were dropped off at our house to the gentleman, our next-door neighbor, and he would just open our door and just let the kids loose. I mean, there was nobody there watching our kids at all, and that's towards the end when we finally found a different babysitter.
Why did you let your children go back there?
We didn't after
Well,
that.
yeah, we didn't after
We didn't
that.
You said there were 3 or 4 times. The first time somebody would drop off my children who were babies like this and just put them in a house would be the last time they would babysit. Why did you bring the children back there for it to happen another 3 times?
We don't have other options with a babysitter.
His mother...
I wanted to explain something to you. Let's keep our fingers crossed for these children.
Okay.
Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,315.
Please excuse, you may step out.
The state says we owe the money, then we owe the money.
I watched her kids a lot.
However, I would not put my kids at her home again.
If she'd had a problem, she would have taken the kids a long time
And I
ago.
certainly learned a valuable lesson.
She never once said anything to me.
I learned that I don't trust anybody with my children.
I don't know. It's rude. You don't go around doing that to people that watch your children.
Definitely pick my friends and my day providers a lot more carefully.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jaramillo versus Adamo. Step forward, please.
Administrative Assistant Catherine Jaramillo is suing the mother of her daughter's ex-boyfriend, medical transcriber Barbara Adamo, for a loan to catch up on her bills.
Ms. Jaramillo, according to what I've read in your complaint, your daughter and the defendant's son used to date.
Yes.
And that's how you knew her.
Yes.
How long did they date?
About 3 years.
And Miss Adamo at some point had some financial difficulties. You claim a series of loans to her, loans amounting to $2,950.
Yes.
The kids are no longer an item, they're no longer together. Miss Adamo says that while maybe she acknowledges one loan to help her pay her rent, she'd never received any other money from you. And in addition, she says that there was some sort of a set-off for that rent money that she's going to tell me about. When and why did you make the first loan?
My daughter came to me and said, you know, can you help her out a little bit? They don't have any food in their house. Both of her sons were living there at the time. She had 4 kids there at the time. And they didn't have any groceries, and she didn't have any money. So I said, sure. So I gave my daughter $100 to take over there so that she could go grocery shopping.
Okay. That's not a loan.
Right.
That's a gift.
Oh, right, I understand that.
Okay. Did she call you and thank you?
Yes, she did.
Tell me about that conversation.
She just said that she was always out of money, that she was having to go to check cashing places and get payday advances, that no one had ever really sat down and taught her how to pay her bills or how to budget her money. And I told her that I could help her do that because I, too, am a single mom with 3 kids. So we sat down and we wrote down everything she owed, all of her regular monthly bills, a few outstanding debts that she had, how much she made, how much she was capable of making, because if she works more, she can make more. And
what kind of work were you doing, Miss Adamo?
I do medical transcription.
You are an independent contractor?
No. I work at a hospital, but I have incentive. Anything over 1,000 lines a day, we get an additional 7.5 cents per line.
So you sat down with her. Do you remember when that was?
It was in November.
It was in December of 2003.
Okay. Go ahead.
In December of 2003, I asked her if she would help me with my budgeting. So she said, yes, I will help you because she's really good with money. And so I went to her house and we sat down and we put all the bills on the table and we went through the whole thing. And she said to me, tomorrow I'm going to go and get a money order for $1,350 and you're going to take it and pay your rent with it. And I said, wait, Kathy, I don't know when I can pay back $1,350.
Well, your rent was due. How were you going to pay your rent?
I didn't know at that point.
Well, you had to, just Miss Adamo, you had to pay your rent.
Right. So she gave me the money order for $1,350 a day later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what arrangements did you make to pay her back?
We had no arrangements at that point. She said we'd talk about it after the holidays. That's what she said to me.
Just a second. You mean she said we would talk about how you were going to pay her back after the holidays?
After the holidays.
So it was a loan.
Yes. Oh, it was a loan. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't clear on that.
No, it was a loan.
Fine.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Catherine Jaramillo says former friend Barbara Adamo owes for a loan to pay bills.
Now, did the plaintiff's daughter give you $100 for groceries?
Yes, she did.
When?
Probably in November. That was before the $1,350.
Now, when was the second amount of money that you gave her?
The same day as the money order. I had my daughter go down to the bank and get the cash out.
For what?
Because when we sat down and we wrote down all of her bills, everything that she owed, I told her that I could loan her the money to pay all of this off so that she could start fresh. And she said that every year she got a really big tax check and that it would be February, March, and that she would be able to pay me back all of this. I completely wiped out all of her debt. She's never disputed that she's owed me this money until today.
Just a minute. How much did you give her in addition to the $1,350?
I gave her $600.
Is that right, Ms. Adamo?
That's not right.
How much did she give you?
The only cash she ever gave me was the $100 in November, and then I received a money order for $1,350. I never, ever received any more cash after that point, ever.
Okay. Let us assume for the moment, just other than the $1,350 and what you claim is a $600 cash loan, is there any other money that you loaned her?
Yes, I gave her $600 right before Christmas because they didn't have a tree. She wasn't going to be able to get the kids anything.
Do you have any proof of that?
No, I do not.
Well, you must have a bank statement if you say you withdrew money.
We no longer have those. I didn't ever think that I would need them.
Well, you need them when you come to court.
Right.
And you knew you were coming. Shh, listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew you were coming to court.
Right.
So it's very easy to call the bank and say, get me a duplicate statement. Right?
Right.
That's a no-brainer. Okay. $1,350. Let's go.
Okay. And then my son graduated from boot camp, and I took Andy and her daughter, which she was supposed to reimburse me for that trip, which I have plane tickets and stuff, and that was supposed to come off the $1,350 that I owed her. And all of this was verbal. We never wrote anything down because we were friends at the time. I was very grateful for what she had done for me.
So you should have paid her back.
Yes.
And you still should pay her back.
Well, I did.
You explained to me how you paid her back.
Okay.
And give me the whole story. You were going to visit your son.
Yes.
And at that time, your son and her daughter were an item.
Correct.
And your son wanted you to bring his girlfriend.
Actually,
look, your son wanted you to bring his girlfriend.
Yes, he wanted to see her.
Right. And she said, let me just speculate. She said, she's not going. I don't have the money for her to go.
No, that's not what she said. As a matter of fact, I asked the daughter not to go because at that point I thought I was only going to have 5 hours to spend with my son because right after graduation he was being sent to Florida.
According to your answer, madam, you said, I spoke to Kathy and she said she wasn't willing to pay for the expenses for Andy and her friend. That's what you swore to in your answer.
Right. So we were supposed to take it out of the $1,350. She wasn't supposed to give me the money. That's what we did. That's what we agreed upon.
Go ahead.
That is simply not true. My daughter was going to go see her boyfriend graduate. I paid for the trip. That was her birthday present for me. She bought the tickets online. I went over there and took her the cash for the tickets.
Well,
I paid for her
you,
trip, plus I gave her money to spend while she was there.
Let me ask you this question. Why would you give her money if she owed you all this money?
Because she wouldn't have the money to buy the tickets, and I wanted my daughter to go. She wanted to go. She did not want my daughter to go.
I didn't want her to go because of the fact that we only had a couple hours. So I asked her, let me just spend those few hours with my son. I've only got 5 hours with him. She threw such a fit. And Andy did. Her daughter threw such a fit.
Her daughter did. And what about your son?
My son understood that I only had the 5 hours at that point. At first, he did want her to go.
Listen to me. Your son wanted his girlfriend there.
Of course he did.
Your son wanted his girlfriend.
Of course
It's
he
very
did.
nice to see his mother.
Absolutely.
Mother, I want to see my girlfriend.
Right.
If my mother brings my girlfriend, I'd be happy to see my mother. But put your hand down. But if I had to choose, you said my girlfriend, and you can write me a long letter. All right, you owe her $1,350. That's what I'm satisfied she gave you as far as a loan is concerned. As far as the rest of the cash that you gave her, I'm not comfortable with awarding her that cash because you had the opportunity to have proof here before me that you did, in fact, at least take the money out of the bank. You chose, that was a conscious choice not to do that. And I don't believe that there was any sort of a set-off for these plane tickets. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,350. That's all.
What is your excuse, Ms. Capel?
She always said we'd talk about it after the holidays. And after the holidays, everything started getting crazy.
She just never made any effort to pay me back whatsoever.
Her daughter started taking my daughter out. And they started drinking and stealing and doing horrible things.
Well, we were teenagers. We were like 16. We did crazy things. We went out to parties. We did what teenagers do. We went to parties and stuff. I mean, that was a long time ago. She just said, do you want to do it with me? And I didn't want to tell her no.
Her son was on probation when my daughter met him, so it's not like her kids are great.
I'm not doing that anymore. My son broke up with her daughter, and that's what instigated the entire thing.
Dragging the kids into it, it's not about them. It's not about them at all, and she made it all about them.
Is suing his ex-girlfriend, homemaker Sue Harris, for stealing Social Security money meant for their daughter. Sue says she took the money because James pays only $25 a month in child support for 3 kids.
Yes, it's case number 494 on the calendar in the matter of Young versus Harris. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Young, Miss Harris and you had a long-term relationship, and you have 3 children together, although you were never married. Is that right?
Correct.
How old are your children?
My oldest one's 16.
That's this young lady here.
Yes.
Go ahead.
My daughter Brittany, she's will be 14 this month.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter Ashley, 10 years old.
And how long did you and Miss Harris live together?
Just 9 years.
And all the children were born during that time?
Yes.
Well, could you just briefly explain to me why you had lived together 9 years, have 3 children, and why you never got married?
We were going to get married at one time, and the next thing I know, I was getting cheated on and what have you, and we could never get along.
I mean, if you were together 9 years, and you have a 16-year-old daughter, after
Correct.
the 16-year-old was born, well, hon, maybe we should make this official, you know, should get married, and then you have a 14-year-old. So 2 years later, you had another baby. Now you have 2 children, and you're living as a family. And 4 years later, you have another baby. So don't go what happened at the end of the relationship. What happened during those years that you were together? Were you married?
No.
Were you married?
No.
Did he ask you to get married?
He tried.
And why didn't you?
Didn't want to marry him.
You wanted to have his children but not marry him?
Well.
Well is not an answer. I'm curious.
No.
You have something against the institution?
No, I just had something against marrying him.
But not against having children with him?
Well, the first one was an accident, and the second one, we went ahead and had the other one. That was another mistake, but I couldn't get out of the relationship. I had tried, and...
And then a third. Wonderful. Okay, this is your complaint. Your complaint is that your 16-year-old daughter, who for some reason gets Social Security...
Right off me.
You're going to tell me about that in a minute. Left her mother's home and went to a friend's house. I assume this is the friend?
Yes.
Friend of yours?
Yes.
And when you found out about it, you said, well, not only am I sending child support to you, also she gets Social Security from me, and you had that changed.
Right.
But there were several months when your daughter's Social Security was going to Miss Harris, and also your child support for your 3 children was going to Miss Harris. You want her to pay you back that money, right?
Correct.
Or pay the money over to...
Pay the money over to my daughter.
Now, when did you and Miss Harris separate?
February 28th of 95.
And you are currently under a child support order?
Yes.
What do you pay?
I pay $25 a month.
$25 a month for 3 children, or for each of the children?
No, for 3 children.
And how long have you been paying $25 a month?
Since I've been on my disability.
And when was that?
That was in 2000.
What's the nature of your disability?
I screwed up my hands and my arms, and I screwed up my lower back.
How?
By lifting wire at a plant.
So what do you do now?
Right now, I don't do nothing.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
You mean you plan on not doing... That's 5 years
no,
you've been doing
do,
nothing?
I do odds and ends.
Like what?
I help the landlord out.
Help the landlord do what?
I go around helping collect the rent, mow the lawns, do the sidewalks in the wintertime.
Just a minute. You mow the lawns, and you do the sidewalks, and collect the rents.
Right.
Is that in the place where you live?
Yes, yes.
Paid in check or cash?
He takes it off my rent.
How does he take it off your rent?
He takes like $30 a month off my rent.
You think I believe that?
Oh, I'm serious.
Uh-huh. I don't. Now, your daughter left home because you weren't getting along, is that right?
Yes, she didn't like the rules.
Okay, so she left home. And this is your friend?
Yes.
Are you still friends?
No.
When did you cease to be friends?
Well, originally, Ray, Trina's boyfriend, he was the one that I had signed guardianship of Tiffany over to. Okay? It wasn't Katrina that I signed guardianship to.
Did there come a point when you told your daughter that she could stay with Katrina?
Yes.
When was that?
In February.
February of
2004.
And after February of 2004, how many months did you collect Social Security for your daughter?
The checks were directly deposited into my account.
How many months?
6.
How much does she get every month for Social Security?
At that time, she was receiving $98 a month.
And you were getting $25 a month from Mr. Young?
Yes.
And that $25 a month, you want a piece of that to go back to your daughter?
Correct.
How much?
Split it up between the 3.
Are you crazy? Are you crazy?
No, I'm not crazy. It's just...
Let me figure this
care.
out for you. Just a second. I'm going to figure this out for you, just so you see how ridiculous your position is. I have to put on my machine, and I'm not really good at this. But here we... What?
$8.33.
No. That's $8.33 a month. 8.33 divided by 30 equals 27 cents a day.
Yeah.
27 cents a day is what you contribute to each of your 3 children, sir.
I understand that.
A large goldfish consumes more.
Well, yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. James Young says his ex-girlfriend Sue Harris owes for the return of Social Security money meant for their daughter.
All right. You get back nothing. You're a scammer to begin with, because anybody that can mow a lawn and shovel a driveway could work. And the fact that at 38 years old you've been collecting Social Security disability for the last 5 years is absolutely outrageous. The one thing I know that you do is you eat well.
Well,
Mr. Young, and I don't believe that your landlord, for the work that you do, takes off $30 or so a month from your rent. That's a lot of baloney. So I suggest you go get a job, because there are people in the Social Security Administration who, fortunately for the rest of the taxpayers in this country, watch us. Now, that's dealing with your $25 that you want $8 back a month for to give to your daughter. That's not dealing with the Social Security. The Social Security payments should have gone to the lady who was taking care of your daughter.
Yes, I agree.
So why didn't you give it to her?
As payee, I couldn't just stop being the payee.
No, you don't have to stop being the payee, but you cash the checks. The checks were direct deposit into your account. You go, you take out cash, $98 a month, and you give it to her, and you say, here's money for taking care of my daughter, who is living with you with my consent. You just have to do it. And you didn't. So for that, he's absolutely right. I won't like the fact that he's complaining about it, because he's not much of a provider.
I used the money to support the house on what he wasn't
The house is not the issue. The house is not the issue. Who is this?
That's my husband.
Does he work?
Yes.
Yeah, that supports your house. Do you work?
No.
Well, you should. That supports your house. You don't take the Social Security check that's designed for her and use it to support your house. And if he needs more money to support the house, let him get 2 jobs. Her money doesn't go to support your house. 98 times 6 equals $588. Judgment for the plaintiff, the checks to be drawn to her name. What's your name?
Katrina Silver.
Katrina Silva. Thank you very much. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I understand what she said, but it was used for the house, and with him only paying $25 a month, it doesn't take care of 3 kids.
I am happy. My daughter's happy about it.
He just loves to control me and think he has something over on me all the time.
I'm not going to sit back and watch you take advantage of your own daughter.
I have nothing against my daughter. She knows she can call the house anytime she wants to.
I'm glad it's done and over with, and I'm very happy with her decision.
I love my daughter.
Now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lay versus Costa. Step forward.
20-year-old sales rep Jason Lay is suing his former co-worker, homemaker Sandra Costa, for stopping payment on a car he sold her. Sandra says the vehicle broke down the day after she bought it.
How old are you, Miss Costa?
31.
Married or single?
Single.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
4.
How do you support them?
I've been getting jobs. I just had my last baby not too long ago, in last April, and I was just starting to get back on the roll of getting back to work.
Does the father of these children live with you?
No, he doesn't. Actually, he just passed away in November.
Did any of the children get death benefits?
They will be.
You've had cars before?
Yes.
You bought used cars before?
Yes.
Okay. This is what this case is about. Mr. Lay sold you a used car for $500.
Right.
And it broke down either on the way home or the next day.
Right.
Was it on the way home or the next day?
It was the very next day.
But you drove the car from his house to your house?
Yes.
How many miles was that?
Give or take about 50 or 60 miles.
Broke down. And then you stopped payment on the check.
After 4 days after he had said he would be there.
And you want your money?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you had the car?
About a month and a half before I sold it to her.
Who did you buy it from?
I bought it from a friend of mine.
For how much?
$350.
Did you do anything to the car?
Yes, when I got it, it wasn't running, so I put some spark plugs, wires, that kind of thing, just made it to where it was running pretty good. And I'd actually planned on keeping it. When she was working with me, she told me that she needed a car pretty bad, so I decided to sell it to her.
Okay. Ms. Costa, you can't stop payment on the check.
Your Honor, he never gave me a bill of sale, a receipt, or a title for the vehicle.
So what? Listen, you can't make up excuses, Ms. Costa. Buying a used car from someone privately is always a risk. Always. Buying a car from somebody for $500 is a very big risk. And in this country, we have the words, they're in Latin. I'll tell you what they are. It's called caveat emptor, and it means let the buyer beware. When you buy a used car from somebody for $500, you don't expect it to keep running. If it does, you've really prayed good. You own $500. All the rest of the stuff that you want, you can't get. Your aggravation, your lost wages,
Well, Your Honor, it was
punitive
more,
damages, harassment.
it was more the harassment charge because of the tape that I have right here. Her boyfriend had called after this incident had happened and had threatened my life, had threatened my family's life.
This boyfriend?
I don't know who it is. I've never seen him. I've only heard him on my voicemail. He had called left me a voicemail threatening me and my family's life, and I was very threatened of it.
But not her.
Well,
She didn't call.
it was her and her boyfriend that was there. He even says on the
Listen to
tape.
me. Listen to me. This is probably the boyfriend. You the boyfriend?
Just a friend.
Just a friend. Are you the friend that went and picked her up and got the car?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're the friend?
Yes.
You mean she has a boyfriend other than you?
She don't have a boyfriend.
Then it must be you.
No, she has a friend.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I tried to do a good deed there, and came back, and now I'm here.
It apparently has been towed off to a tow yard.
I was very threatened for my life. I mean, obviously, she picked up the car from my house, so she knows where I live.
It wasn't me that made the phone call. It was somebody else.
He could have showed up at any time and, done anything to me or anyone I lived with.
Sherry Ogden is suing her daughter, student Shannon Bentley, for a series of loans to help her get back on her feet. Sherry claims Shannon's house and car were seized in a drug raid.
All rise. This is case number 501 on the calendar, the matter of Ogden versus Bentley. Parties been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Ogden, this is your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, your daughter asked you for a series of loans.
Yes, ma'am.
She had gotten into some trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
Possibly trouble that could have ended her up in very hot water. And she agreed to pay you back. She did not.
Yes,
and in
ma'am.
addition to that, you co-signed for a car for her. Car was eventually repossessed. She
Yes, ma'am.
says at your suggestion, therefore, she owes you nothing for the car. And your daughter says that you did, in fact, give her some money when she got into trouble. In exchange for that, she waited on you hand and foot like a slave, and if you had to pay somebody to take care of you, it would have cost you a lot more than what she actually took from you. Is that your
Well,
defense?
that's a lie.
Shh.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
That's your defense. How old are you?
I'm 32.
What kind of trouble did you get into, Miss Bentley?
I was picked up with the sale of drugs.
Drug sale?
Yes, ma'am. I haven't been charged yet, but I was picked up for that.
When was that?
That was September 1st, 2004.
Are those charges still pending?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a lawyer involved in
Yes,
that case? What did you need money for?
Well, whenever I first moved, my mom offered me a place to stay, to get back on my feet, to get cleaned up and stay out of trouble. And I took her up on it, and I had a couple of hot checks.
What do you mean hot checks?
Well, I mean, I had written a couple of checks, and they weren't covered. I thought the money was in the bank, but it wasn't.
So you needed money?
Right. She offered. I didn't ask.
How much money did you need?
That was, I think that was $250 at that time. And there was also an incident where I was going through a divorce at the same time, and I had my ex filed telephone harassment on me. And so I also had to fine for that for court. I didn't ask her to pay. Again, she offered. I was going to come up with the money.
You were going to come up with the money.
Right.
How much was that?
$500.
Does your mother work?
Nope.
How does she support herself?
My stepdad pays our bills.
So she's married and she lives with her husband?
Yes.
So it really is the income that's coming into the house is his income.
Right. She loans it out to other family members just like she did me.
She offers it to other family members with the understanding that they're not going to pay her back.
Or that they will if they can, whenever. If they don't, she wants it right then she wants it right then.
Who are you?
Her witness, Robert Dillahunty.
How is he related to you?
He's my boyfriend. He was there whenever she offered to pay some of the bills for me and stuff.
Was he also arrested on these drug charges?
Yes, ma'am.
You have the same lawyer or a different lawyer?
Different lawyers.
That's a good idea. You understand why you have a different lawyer, don't you?
No.
Because eventually one of you is going to put it on the other.
Amen.
Well, that's going to happen.
They both
That's
lie
why,
like dogs.
That's why I have two different lawyers. So let's deal with the $750.
Well, totally, it is $244.54 for your hot checks for you.
Okay, she said $250. It's close enough. What's next?
And the other one, I had just gotten out of the hospital on Wednesday night, and I get a phone call the next morning around 10 a.m. on Thursday from Robert Delahunty's mother, Margaret Delahunty, saying that Shannon had to have $404 or she was going to go to jail. Well, I had no other way to get it. My twin was sick. She couldn't go take it. I paid Mr. Deaton by telephone, and he charged me an extra $100 to do it.
Okay. Well, once you turned over the money, tell me about the discussion you had with your daughter.
Well, she knew she had to pay me back. I told her, I said, Shannon Michelle, I ain't growing money on trees. She knows she got to pay me back.
No, Miss Ogden, listen to me very carefully. I want to know what you said to her and what she said to you when you finally saw her after you paid this money.
She said, Mother, I'll get a job. As soon as I get my job, I'll pay you back. And as soon as I cash my stocks in, I'll pay you back. I've heard this and heard that.
Just a second. Did she ever get a job?
No, but she got offered one. She wouldn't take it.
Did she ever sell her stocks? What kind of stocks do you have?
There were some my dad, he passed away in 2002. There were some he had with Dow back from like the 70s. It was just a few $1,000s worth.
So what'd you do with the money?
I'm having them transferred right now into my name, because I was executrix of his estate. And Judge, I couldn't get a job because, I pretty much did everything for her. When I moved in, I did
Miss Ogden.
I did everything for the woman. I cleaned. She, get me something to drink, get me a beer, get me this. She was constantly, it never.
So what?
I was her maid. How could I get a job?
Miss Bentley.
I did the best I could.
Miss Bentley, you're not there now. You're not taking care of your mother now. Why can't you get a job now?
I can. I'm looking. I'm going to school full time, and I'm looking for work.
Look. Listen to me. You have children?
Yes, ma'am, too.
Your children don't live with you?
No, ma'am.
They live with their father?
They live with his parents.
Or with his parents?
Yes, ma'am.
They don't live with you?
Right.
Or him?
Right.
Amen.
Ditto to that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Terry Ogden says her daughter, Shannon Bentley, owes for loans she made while Shannon was trying to get clean. Shannon says because of drugs, she lost everything.
This is not the time for a 32-year-old woman to be in school full-time, my dear. This is the time for a 32-year-old woman to be in school part-time and working. Because if you have children who are being taken care of by their paternal grandparents, in addition to paying your mother back for the money she laid out to keep you out of jail, you should be sending support for your children. How's that for an eye-opener?
I agree. You're right. I've looked for a job.
You're not looking hard enough, honey. Anybody can get a job.
Thank you.
Anybody can get a job. Fast food, drying cars at a car wash. Anybody can get a job. Your problem is that you've had a windfall of money. According to your mother, $375,000.
No, ma'am, it wasn't that much.
How much?
It was around $250,000.
$250,000 is $250,000. That's a lot of money.
I have a house paid for. I have a car paid for. I have
Lufkin Police Department has it.
Shh. Listen to me, Miss Ogden. Don't speak.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say to you is, you got a lot of money. That can make you a real lazy behind. But you have responsibility. When was the last time you sent your children support?
I haven't supported them. I've bought clothes for them. And
that's not support. Support is sending their grandparents $500 a month. And I suggest that if you want to be considered a mother at any time in your life, you will start to do that. Get a job and start supporting your children. Because that's what mothers are supposed to do who don't have their children in their custody. Just like fathers. But first, you pay your mother back $750 judgment.
Wait, I got $1,250 in there where I loaned her to. It's on there.
Is that for the car? Shh, listen to me. Was that for the car?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to pay careful attention to me and just listen to me.
Okay.
The car was repossessed.
I had them.
You had them repossess the car.
You know why? I couldn't stand it being in Lufkin, Texas because of her and Dopehead over here. Insurance could elapse on a Friday night. Well, I wouldn't know that Gates got it. Right?
Miss Ogden, I understand. Listen to me. I understand why you felt compelled to repossess the car. But there was no legal reason. There was an emotional reason for you to repossess the car. You said, listen, I'm not crazy about him. I'm not crazy about her. and I'm not going to be stuck with this payment because it could end up on my credit, so I'm going to call them and have the car repossessed. I can understand why you did it, but then you can't get the money back for the tax tags. All right, $750. I'm speaking.
$750.
Listen to me. I'm speaking. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750.
But Judge,
that's all.
I'm telling you, listen to this tape right here. No, listen. She owed me $1,250.
That's it.
What is your excuse? You may step out.
You liar. She went through all of that money on drugs, and there's a dope head over there with her.
I bought a house, bought cars. I mean, the money's gone. This is true.
She stood there and told her bald-faced lie. I don't even drink beer. She'd get up and get me a beer. She didn't wait on me for no hand or foot and a man in the moon.
Well, she's crazy because, I mean, she takes so many pills, it's pathetic. She's nothing but a pill head.
She sold Vicodins and Zoloft and
My mother
Prozac to other doctors and stuff in Pasadena.
You know why she goes to school? She gets Pell Grants. That way she can live on it.
My mom has nothing to do with the kids. She can go see them on her own. She don't. She calls them occasionally. She don't leave her house, leave her pill bottle.
Well, I love her. Hope she gets her life straightened out. But if she can't get her life straightened out, she better stay out of mine because I don't want to go to penitentiary.
I just don't think there'll ever be a relationship. There never has been one. There's never going to be one.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nunemaker versus Nunemaker, step forward, please.
Salesman Bruce Nunemaker is suing his son, truck driver Shad Nunemaker, for unpaid credit card charges. Shad claims he's never stopped making payments.
Mr. Nunemaker, this is your son.
Yes.
According to what I read in your complaint, 2 years ago, your son ran into some difficulty with a truck that he owned for business. And the truck broke down, requiring a substantial amount of repairs. You loaned him money to make... Stop playing with your papers. You loaned him the money to make the repairs on your truck through your credit card. There was an agreement that he would pay you back, and he had been making the payments faithfully on your credit card from 2002 until March of 2004. So far, am I correct?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And then he stopped making the payments. You want at least part of the balance of what is owed because the maximum in this court is $5,000. The defendant says that you breached the agreement with you with regard to repayment of this loan, so the loan was null and void. And he'll explain that to me in a moment. When, in 2002, was this loan made?
May 2nd of 2002.
And under what circumstances was it made?
Shad was on a trip. He drives over the road, and during the trip, he was outside of Colorado, about 150 miles outside of Denver, rather, in Grand Junction, Colorado, and he called me and said that his truck, the engine had blown.
What kind of truck did you have, sir?
It's a Freightliner. I have a photo here.
I'd like to see it.
That's exterior and then,
Okay,
interior.
go ahead. Go ahead.
He told me on the phone that he was unable to arrange his own financing for the $12,000 engine in his truck, and without that, he was out of work.
Now, tell me, sir, why did you stop making payments? You were making the payments to your father.
Ma'am, I never stopped making payments. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of all of my checks, and I also have a copy of check number 619 for $247.54, which I just called yesterday, and my bank says it has not cleared, which tells me that for some reason or another, Bruce does not want to cash the check.
Did you receive a check that you did not cash, sir?
I cashed it a couple days ago, yes.
So you did cash it?
I did.
Just a few days ago. So what are you doing here?
That was a check for March. At the time of our separation, he was living with me in my home.
I understand that.
And it came to a point where we came to some conflict.
I understand that. And he moved out, and he moved out. You told him to move out, and he was angry. But you've just cashed a check, sir, that he paid for, and he said he's paid for the truck, and he intends to continue to honor the agreement. So what are you doing here?
That's not true.
What's not true?
The truth of the matter is that he sent me a check after we separated on March 19th. Sent me a check for partial payment on the March payment. At the day that we separated, when the papers were served by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, he verbalized that, and prior to that too, that I would never see the rest of that money.
Well, he was speaking out of the top of it, or, he was speaking out of anger because he acknowledges that this is his debt, and he's acknowledged that in open court. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. You understand, Mr. Nunemaker, that if you fail, now that we have an acknowledged debt, It doesn't have to be in writing anymore. It's an acknowledged debt under oath.
With no
So,
stipulations?
listen to me. It's an acknowledged debt under oath. You understand that if you fail to pay this debt, your father has a lien on your truck. Do you understand that? I want you to understand that.
No, I don't know that.
Well, then I am telling you that. Your father has a lien on your truck should you fail to pay it. It's exactly the same thing as if you had a written contract with him, a written loan agreement with him. Do I make myself clear?
Thus far, yes.
Good. I suggest, sir, that you make those payments on
Ma'am.
time every month.
Ma'am?
Yes.
May I add something? It's very important. Before I moved out, I told him that if he breached our agreement, he would not see it. And he said, that's fine. I'll take the loss to get you out of my life.
What are you talking about breach? Tell me.
The agreement was that I would continue to make payments and still live in his house and do my studies.
Well, that's what you wrote in your answer that I didn't believe when I read it in your answer. Are you telling me, sir, that when you called your father from the road in May of 2002 and said, Dad, I blew the engine on my truck and I don't have the finances to fix it. Can you lend me the money? And your father said yes. And what you want me to believe is, and you said to your father, and I will pay you back as long as you are nice to me, watch your temper, let me live in your house and continue my studies. And your father said yes, under those conditions I will... Stop speaking! Under those conditions, I will give you the $12,000. Is that what you want me to believe? Get a life.
We did not make an agreement, ma'am.
Listen to me, sir.
We did not discuss an agreement.
Listen to me, sir. I've just advised your son, under oath, your son has acknowledged this loan to you. There were no conditions on the loan. I find that there were no conditions on the loan. I will enter an order that should he miss 2 payments, you have leave to enter a judgment against him in the amount of the balance owed on the truck, and you may enter a lien against that truck in order to execute on it. You can sell it. Do you understand?
I do. What about the 2
months?
Goodbye. He has issues from his childhood that he's still trying to work through.
The animosity began, I don't know, years and years ago when he developed a chemical imbalance.
Chad left us once before for 3 years. We didn't know if he was alive or dead.
Bruce said that he would let the thing go, and then he sued me 2 days later. Can you understand why I was a little bit confused whether or not I was supposed to be making payments?
I didn't forgive the debt. I said, I'll have to deal with it in whatever fashion I have to go.
If you want to go upward, you have to get away from people that are trying to drag you down.
I hope that there's healing for Chad's spirit and our family.
21-year-old telemarketer Crystal Eckert is suing her ex-boyfriend, advertising specialist Matthew Hammers, for car payments, damages to the vehicle, and an assault.
Yeah, this is case number 72 on the calendar in the matter of Eckert versus Hammers. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Eckert, the defendant used to be your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he owes you for a variety of things. In 2001, you co-signed for a car for him. According to you, he stopped making payments on the car at some point. You took over those payments. You also took back the car in February of this year. You want him to make the payments to you that you made on the car when the car was in his possession. Then you claim that he damaged 2 cars during an alleged assault on you. One was a car that you were in, and one was the car that you had co-signed for. And you also claim that he assaulted you. The defendant says that he made the car payments, so he doesn't owe you anything for the car, that he returned the car to you in February of this year, and that with regard to the assault, he was merely defending himself. Correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's get to the car. We agree that she co-signed for a car for you in 2001. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
On what date did you return the car to her, sir? I'm taking your answer. You say you returned the car to her.
Yes, February 8th.
Tell me the circumstances, Mr. Hammers, of your returning the car to her.
I returned the car as I came back from a trip to Arizona because I didn't want to be a part of her life anymore. I'd had enough of everything that went on.
That's a lie. Just wait. Don't speak. When did the 2 of you part company?
About November 24th.
You took the car with you.
Correct.
Well, then I want you to explain to me in November, December, January, what prompted you in February to return the car to her?
The altercation that took place on January 11th.
Okay, so this assault altercation preceded you giving the car back to her.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. By the way, Miss Eckert, what did you do with the car when he gave it back to you?
I had to get it fixed, or the bank was going to sue me, and so I had to get the car fixed, and I have estimates showing that I got it fixed. And then...
Can't you just answer my question?
Yes. And then I returned it to the bank after I fixed it.
What did you have to pay them? Anything?
To return it? No.
So there was no money owed?
No.
How much did you spend to have it fixed?
$474 and some change.
So the car was practically paid off?
No. It was...
No.
We just gotten it. We're making payments on it, and we bought it September 29th.
Did you both put down a down payment?
No.
I put down my old car as a down payment.
Just you?
Just myself.
She didn't put down any money? And no money was owed on the car because you both co-signed it, so that nobody's credit is going to be at risk or anything
My
else?
credit it shows repossession.
It does?
Yes.
But the finance company didn't tell you that there was any deficiency?
I had to owe the rest of the money.
Well, they had to sell the car at some point. Did they do that yet?
I have no idea.
Let me see what you have there.
This is showing that I paid to have the Eclipse fixed, and these are estimates showing that I tried to find the cheapest place.
How much did you pay to have the car fixed?
$474.68.
Well, is that this bill?
Yes.
Did you make all the payments on the car, sir?
I did, Your Honor.
Show me proof that you made the payments.
May I interject? The way I made the payments was, it was in her name, and I handed her the cash. I have Corey Sykes with me today to prove that. A couple of payments that were made, he took me to give her the cash.
I have never seen this guy.
Let me tell you something, Ms. Eckert. I think that you're a little premature in your lawsuit with regard to this car. Ultimately, the bank is going to come after you.
I returned the car February 18th of 2004 and haven't heard nothing from the bank.
Well, then you better call them, madam, because if you have on your credit report a repossession, the bank is going to tell you how much the deficiency is. They gave you $14,000. They're not going to be able to sell it for $14,000. Do you understand? They're going to sell it for substantially less. And you are going to be primarily responsible for that. So don't look to him for $400 to fix it. You have to look to him for thousands.
Well, that's not all that I'm suing him for.
I understand, but that's primarily what you're suing him for.
Yes. I also have a note saying that he's responsible for all damages that he signed.
That's fine. Listen to me. Don't do anything with regard to the car until you have indication from the bank as to what he owes you. Do you understand? What do you want?
I was with him when he went to go drop off the payments. Since that section's done, I just want to let you know you are very beautiful. I've always admired you. Cute. Thank you. Since I'm done, I'll sit down.
I have never seen that guy.
You got it? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? All right. Now, the only part of your lawsuit left is the assault. So when did this alleged assault take place?
January 11th, 2004.
Tell me about it.
I went over to his house because he wanted me to go up to the bar with him, and I didn't want to go to the bar because the girl that I wasn't getting along with, Alicia, was going to be up there. And so I told him, when you get home, call me or text message.
What's a text message for those of us who are electronically challenged?
On a cell phone, you can text message somebody without having to call them. It's just like an email.
Go ahead.
And I said, okay, do you want me to meet you at your house?
Meet him for what?
To get his phone, because his public defender was going to call about...
To get his phone?
To take a message.
Why couldn't he speak to his public defender?
Because he was going out of town.
Where was he going?
To Arizona, as far as I knew.
And his phone doesn't work in Arizona?
No.
You can't get incoming calls in Arizona?
I didn't have the service at that time, though.
Well, if you didn't have the service, what were you giving her your phone for?
I wasn't.
You were?
Yes, you were.
Okay. So, according to you, you were going to his house to get his telephone so that you could take the call from a public defender because he was going to Arizona.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Bill Eckert says ex-boyfriend Matthew Hammers owes for unpaid car payments, damages to the vehicle, and an assault. Matthew says it was Crystal who assaulted him.
All right. Who did you go to his house with?
Carl Bonnie.
With Carl?
Yes.
Okay. What happened when you got to his house?
Carl stayed in the car. I parked my car down the street, and I walked up. He came downstairs. I got a text message saying, that's up what you did to Matt. He said, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, I got a text message from the girl that I don't like, Alicia, saying that's up what you did to Matt. I asked Matt, I said, what did I do to you? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I was like, fine, whatever, I'm done. This is stupid. And I turned around and I walked off. Matt comes around, I start running, and I hear him, and then he puts his arms around me, and I go sliding on the ground. I have scars from when he did it on my arm and on my knee, and I also have pictures when I fell.
And then what happened?
And then I yell for Carl. Carl comes running out, and Carl, Bonnie, and Matt got into a fist fight, and I went back to my car. I wanted to leave. I didn't want to have no part of anything.
So?
And then after that, I was yelling for Carl, come on, let's go, let's go. Carl and Matthew are walking down the street talking.
So they stopped fighting and now they're buddies?
As far as I knew.
Okay, keep
That's
going.
what it looks like to me in my car.
Keep going.
And so Carl gets in my car, Matthew comes on the driver's side and says, I want to talk to you, I want to talk to you. I said, no, I don't want to talk. And he gets all mad and runs up to the Eclipse and punches the Eclipse in the left quarter panel. And then I'm driving off, he comes, he punches my driver's side window of the Grand Am and pulls on it, does not break the window. After he punched the window, he was pulling me out of the vehicle. I was clawing his face as in self-defense because I was halfway out of my window. And one arm was behind me, pulling me out. Carl was trying to get his arm off me. That was the end of the story.
Okay, Carl.
He also called my mom.
Now, Carl, Miss Eckert says that at some point after you got it on with Mr. Hammers, you were walking back to the car together. Is that true?
Yes.
And when you were walking back to the car together, what were you discussing?
He said he wanted to talk to her.
Now, you had just been fighting with him, is that right?
Yes.
But yet you were walking back to the car and you weren't fighting?
No.
How did that come about?
He said he wanted to stop, so I stopped.
Well, tell me exactly what he said. He said, let's stop this.
And then we...
Is that what he said? Let's stop
yes.
this? And then he said to you what, Carl?
He said he wanted to talk to Crystal, and I said she's not going to talk to you. And I said
Did he say what he wanted to talk to her about?
He said he loved her and he was sorry for hitting her.
And then what happened?
And then once we started driving off, he ran up to her car and yelled at her, and then ran back to his car and punched the Eclipse.
What did he yell at her?
He was just calling her names and all that stuff. And
okay. And he came back to the car?
He ran up to the car and punched the window and grabbed it and started yanking on it, and then started pulling her out of the car. Her head hit the mirror, and I was trying to get his hand off of her. And then all these other people from the same complex there came out and yelled at him to get away, and it stopped from there.
Okay. Now I'll hear you, Mr. Hammers. Let's go back to the 11th of January. Let's hear what you have to say for yourself, sir.
I was at the bar doing karaoke, and I got back home, and Crystal had called my home phone and said that she was downstairs. And I'd gone downstairs to see what she wanted, and she said, I got this text message from Alicia, who was a girl that was at the bar as well. And at this time, Carl and her had dated, and I didn't know, it could have been dating at that time too. I didn't know. And
what part of don't speak don't you understand?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I said, I had no clue about this text message. I don't know what's going on. We exchanged words, and at that point, she reached out and hit me and scratched my neck. And I was like, I don't want any part of this. So I turned around to walk away, and she came after me. She has shoes that she does not tie, and tripped and fell, and she caught my foot when she went down, and I fell as well. From there, she yelled for Carl as I was up helping her up. Carl came out and said, what are you doing to my girl? And ran at me, and he had contacted me, which my back end had hit the Eclipse. From there, Carl and I began to wrestle around, and his earring got caught on his sweater. And he said, dude, I don't want to fight you anymore. I underestimated you can fight. From there, I helped him get his sweater off of his earring. And from that time, we were walking back to the Grand Am. And I just...
What were you walking back to the Grand Am where she was sitting?
Because I wanted to tell her I wanted no part of her anymore in my life.
I think she knew that.
True.
Who's Alicia?
Alicia was one of her friends that was at the bar.
Do you know Alicia?
Just through her.
But you've never dated Alicia?
No.
Did you think he had dated Alicia?
No.
Do you think he had talked to Alicia about you?
No.
So what did you care about the text message from Alicia?
Because Alicia told me that she was going to bust my teeth in.
You didn't tell me that. When did she tell you that?
The night before.
Well, why would she say that to you?
Because Matthew told me that Alicia asked Matthew if she wanted to smoke some drugs with her.
And?
Well, then Alicia thought that I was saying a bunch of rumors about her, saying that she's a drug addict, she's no good mother. And so I was like, okay, Alicia wouldn't let me tell her. Alicia told me that she was going to bust my teeth in, so why would I go to the bar?
What'd that have to do with him?
He's the one who told me that Alicia asked him that. And
But she was not angry with you about that. She was angry with you because she said that you were going around telling people she was not a good mother and a drug addict.
Yes, and I don't know where she would get that because me and Alicia, we've been friends since 3rd grade.
Oh, so you went over to Matt's house because you were annoyed with him because you thought that he had told your friend Alicia.
That's not
that,
true.
No. I mean, it's coming clear. You know, I ask enough questions, it will become clear. You weren't going over there to say to him, what's this about? You knew what it was about. It was about you asking him, why did you say something to Alicia about that drug business that I spoke to you about?
That's not
Because now she's sending me bad text messages and she says she's going to bust my teeth. Listen to me, you had no reason to go over to his house that night. The only reason you went over to his house that night had to do with the text message from Alicia, not with this baloney about getting a cell phone. Listen to me very carefully. I'm dismissing without prejudice that part of your claim which has to do with the car. Wait until your bank advises you how much the deficiency on the car is after they sell it, and then you sue him for that deficiency, because you are responsible for that, sir. As far as the assault is concerned, I find that you precipitated it by going over there that evening, and that you did, in fact, trip and fall, which is consistent with the injuries. Quiet. The injuries in your photograph to your knee. I'm dismissing that part of your claim with prejudice. Goodbye, and have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she's just trying to get back at me for, leaving her and life in general.
No, I wasn't angry about that. I was angry that Matthew tackled me.
One time she had said if I messed up her credit, then she was going to mess up my life. So
I'll be seeing him in court in Omaha.
if she's going to try, she's going to try.
Next case.
All parties in the matter of Armendariz versus Barrett. Step forward, please.
26-year-old retail clerk Lena Armendariz is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old waiter Ryan Barrett, for an unpaid loan for rent. Ryan is countersuing for his waterbed, rollerblades, and computer.
Miss Armendariz, Mr. Barrett and you lived together for a period of time. He was your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he ran into some tough financial times, couldn't pay his rent for a few months, and you loaned him the money to pay his share of the rent.
That's
He moved
right.
out, and you want that money back. Mr. Barrett says this was not a loan. You were living together. You were a couple living together. You went into some hard times, and you just covered the rent until he moved out and found his own place. He is counterclaiming because he said at some point he decided he wanted to come back and get his property that he had left behind, and you told him that he couldn't until he paid the rent that he owed you. So he is counterclaiming for his waterbed, rollerblades, and a computer.
That's correct.
When did you move in?
We moved in together in March of 2003.
Did you have a lease?
We did have a lease, yes.
How long was the lease?
It wasn't a specific length of time.
Actually, there was, Your Honor, I have this right here, the lease copy. It's for, it has the date right over right there on there.
Could you show this to the defendant, please? Ask him if that's his signature.
Yes, it's my signature.
That's a lease.
Yes.
So you had a lease.
We had a lease.
The lease was for 1 year. When did you move out?
I moved out in September. Actually, October, rather.
She's not suing you for the rent during that time. When did you stop paying rent?
I stopped paying in the end of September. I didn't pay for October because I was not living there in October.
He was actually, Your Honor.
Just a second. When did you go back to get your property?
I tried to go back and get my property several times, and every time...
According
she
to your
delayed it.
answer, you say that you went back in December.
The first time was not in December. The first time was in October, and then again in November.
Okay, in October, did you take any property with you?
I took some property, the stuff that I could fit inside of a small car.
Then you went back again in November.
Right.
What happened in November when you went back?
There was nobody there.
And then, according to you, you went back in December.
Right.
Did you tell her why you were coming back?
Yes.
And what did she say to you?
She said that she would agree to talk to me. And we went to talk. and then she started insulting me. So I left, and when I came back again, I called her again on the way back to the house, and I said, I'm coming for my stuff right now. She said no, I could not have my stuff.
You want to tell me why you moved out?
I moved out because we broke up, and she told me to get out.
Is that right?
That is right, but the thing what happened is I was going to let him stay there, you know, until he got himself together and got, you know, money and everything. But I just could not deal with that because, you know, I know it's not very relevant to it, but, you know, the relationship was over. It was very hard to be there.
So you were happy that he left?
Well, yes, I was, because I could not take it anymore. And he wanted to try to work it out, to try to, you know, make payments to me and everything.
I wanted my property back, honestly.
Just a minute. So
he did not say he wanted
Just
to...
a second. So when you discussed it, you discussed making payments. Is that right, sir?
I told her that I would...
Just answer my question. Stop tap dancing. I said, did you in fact tell her that you would make payments?
Yes.
Great. And what happened?
What happened? I tried to contact her to set up a time to make payments.
To make payments? Had you come to an agreement on the amount?
I went ahead and I said yes to her amount.
Which was what amount, sir?
It was $900 at the time.
Why didn't that come to fruition?
That did not come to fruition because she wanted to go to a notary and have it done there. So I said, okay, fine. We'll go to a notary. And when I tried contacting her in order to set up a time and date to go, she said, no, I'm busy. I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And I waited for a response. Never got anything.
Okay. So you did agree to pay $900 in payments. Oh, that was a long time getting there. Now, you have his waterbed?
I have...
Just answer my question. You have his waterbed?
Yes, I still have the waterbed and the computer.
Good. And what about the rollerblades?
I never saw any rollerblades. He never told me he wanted the rollerblades. He just said the waterbed and the computer.
Now, when do you want to go and pick them up?
I'd be willing to go pick them up at any time.
Fine. 5 days from today, you can go in the company of a peace officer. I will prepare an order that you may pick up your waterbed and your computer. That takes care of your counterclaim.
That wasn't the only stuff on his counterclaim.
I didn't ask you a thing. It's the only thing that I see on his counterclaim. His waterbed and his computer. She does not have his rollerblades. And as far as the plaintiff's claim is concerned, the defendant finally acknowledges that he owed the plaintiff $900. He was in agreement to make payments on that amount to her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He is just very irresponsible and very immature and did not want to live up to his responsibility for what he owed me.
He was completely nuts, so...
I know he was already messing around before we broke up.
I hope I never see her again.
I'm very glad. I am so glad it's over. Once he gets that stuff out, that is it.
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall are suing their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, for an insurance deductible and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2074, Marshall versus Fugate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Marshall, you live across the street from Mr. Fugate and his mother.
Yes.
How long have you lived in your house?
22 years.
And Mr. Fugate, how long have you lived in your house?
Your Honor, my mom has lived in the house far longer than I have. She's lived in it since 2008. I moved in 2016.
Mr. and Mrs. Marshall, this problem that I'm going to try to rectify today deals with parking space.
Yes.
And the parking space is a public parking space, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And it's on the street, and the public parking space happens to be in front of your home.
Yes, ma'am.
You live across the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And the case involves acrimony that has developed because you, Mr. Fugate, would like to keep that spot that's in front of your home free for your mother, who you say for health reasons, it would be more convenient for her to park right in front of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. and Mrs. Marshall sometimes, or always, park in that spot. That's what the problem is.
Yes.
Okay. And I assume you're going to speak for your husband for now?
I can, yes.
Do you want her to talk for you?
Sorry.
He learns his lessons well. Oh, that's very good.
You can speak,
I can speak for myself. If she need to, she can.
Perfect. You've been living there a long time. Did you have any trouble with the Fugate family about this parking space between 2008 and 2016?
No.
So before the son moved in, you had no problem?
That's right.
Had you ever, just a second, had you ever had discussions with Mrs. Fugate about parking in that spot before he came?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Fugate, did you understand what I said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to be very careful in your answer to me.
Yes, ma'am.
You've lived there for a long time.
Yes,
your son didn't move in until 2016. Before your son moved in, did you ever have any communication with Mr. and Mrs. Marshall about parking in front of your house?
Ma'am, she didn't park in front of my house before my son moved in.
Okay. So is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you tell me what changed after her son moved in?
Okay, where I park at is actually across the street from the Fugates. It's right by my driveway, and I park my Toyota Avalon right beside my driveway, which is the parking spot that Mr. Fugate is causing the problems over.
So it's the parking spot is in front of your house?
No, it's not in front of my house. It's beside my driveway.
But on your side of the house?
That's
on your
correct.
side of the street?
Yes. Correct.
No.
Do they have a parking space in front of their house on their side of the street?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever park there?
I have. When they took the parking space I usually park in, I did park across the street.
Okay, so occasionally either Mr. Fugate, his mother, parks on your side of the street, on a public street, and you'll park in front of their house.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so let me tell you all this. We're going to finish part of the case right now. Too bad. You can park wherever you want on a public street because there are other visitors that come, I assume, for people who live on the block, that they take up parking spaces, and occasionally there aren't other parking spaces. You know, there's no question you would prefer to park on your side of the street, and you would prefer to park on your side of the street. If you can't, you can't. Mr. Fugate, I'm just telling you, just so that you know, you have no right to a public parking space.
Yes, I understand that, Your Honor. I'm not the one that needs to be told that, though.
You have no right to a public parking space.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you live, in what state?
Ohio, Cincinnati.
Okay. I've actually been to Cincinnati frequently, but I am certain that there is no regulation in Ohio or any city or town thereof that says, well, you sort of had first dibs on the parking space on the public street that's in front of your house. That's ridiculous.
The best that Cincinnati has, Your Honor, is a 3-day law that if the vehicle doesn't move within 3 days, then it could be towed by the city. But that's the best that they have.
You live across the street from each other. Did either of you ever call the police and say a car has been there for more than 3 days?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who did?
I did, Your Honor.
Why?
Because the spot in question that's directly across the street is actually, it's hindering to the entire flow of the neighborhood and where everybody parks on the street. I served 10 years Army, and I fought for people.
Listen, I don't care if you're a good person, if you're not a good person, if you're a do-gooder, if you're not a do-gooder. It's a public street. And if what you're suggesting to me is they should be nice, it's an older person, and they shouldn't park in that spot, what I'm telling you is I wouldn't start up with anybody by calling the police on a car that especially a car that I knew. I know that it's my neighbor's car. They've been living there for 22 years, relatively peacefully. Relatively peaceful.
It hasn't really been peaceful, Your Honor.
You moved there.
Yes, I did.
They were living there a decade before you moved there. You.
Yes, ma'am.
If it wasn't peaceful, there are options. You're a free person. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I cannot imagine my calling the police on a neighbor's car that was parked in the street. Well, that created problems. Okay, so I see where we're going. We're going to get to this case. Reimbursement for insurance deductible That's one thing, because you claim that Mr. Fugate damaged
ma'am.
your car.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
That was on June the 26th.
Of this year?
Of 21, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have any video evidence of the damage to your car?
No, ma'am. All I have is a picture.
Tell me how he damaged the car. With what did he damage the car?
Okay, he damaged the car with his hand. I'm parking the car.
You mean in front of?
In front of Mrs. Fugate's home.
So on her side of the street?
Yes, ma'am. I exit the car. Mr. Fugate is being erratic.
No, don't tell me what your perception of. Tell me what he did.
He was beating the hood of the car.
He came up to the car and was hitting the top of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I'll see the car and the police report. See the dent, and that's the hood of the car. Okay. Okay, as this police report says, Mr. Fugate told the police in his narrative that this incident occurred, there was a disagreement over the parking space, and that you struck him with the car, causing minor injury. Okay, because you have a cross complaint for that.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's a simple. June 26th, I see the car was damaged. There's no question it was damaged by somebody pounding on the hood, and I assume that was you.
Ma'am, that's wrong. I did not pound on the hood.
Well, then tell me, Mr. Fugate, how these dents occurred, just the way they look, on the hood of the car.
Your Honor, I have the 911 audio calls of the night, as well as the police report, and I also drew up a diagram where she was originally parked that explains everything. But,
okay, so I'd like to see that. Okay.
Ma'am, if I could approach the diagram.
Absolutely. June 26th.
On June 26th, I was talking to my parents when the marshals came home. My car was parked right here. Okay, they came home, they blocked their own driveway, and parked right up on top of my bumper.
Just a second.
Just
a second. So you, Mr. Fugate, were parked on a public street where you could park on their side of the street, not your side of the street, okay?
Yes, sir.
And they came up blocking their own driveway.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you see them? Were you in the house watching?
No, I was on my parents' porch.
Okay. So now you're on your parents' porch, they're in their car, and they blocked their own driveway.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Not a big ordeal, right?
Not any of your business.
Right. It wasn't, like I said, wasn't a problem to me.
Wasn't any of your business.
Exactly. So
Go ahead.
anyway, I'm talking to my parents on the phone. They're just getting done working. I can hear that the marshals are upset about where I'm parked at on a public street. And I went out to save my parents' spot because I could hear her say, I'm going to teach him a lesson.
So, Mr. Fugate, now, is what you're telling me that that car where you're standing in, you went out to make it so that they could not park on a public street? Is that what you're telling me? The answer is yes.
Yes.
You got off the porch to stand in the street to block them from moving in front of your house because your car was parked on their side of the street.
No, no, Your Honor. No, you got that wrong.
Is that red car yours?
The red car is mine.
It's mine.
Yes, Your Honor.
Justice said the red car is yours. Listen, I'm not a moron.
I know that.
The white car is the space that you wanted to save for your parents.
Yes, Your Honor. They were on their way home. I was
Who
talking to
gives
them.
a rat's behind where they were? Now you have
this
both
whole
spots.
area was clear, and there is a crossing road that comes all the way through here, and they could have parked.
Who made you the monitor of public parking?
No one.
Who do you think you are to be the monitor of public parking?
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall claim their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, owe for an insurance deductible and filing a false police report. Joseph and Jennifer are countersuing for medical bills from an assault.
Now, you went out on a public street to go like this to save
a parking space for your parents.
Yes,
that you had no right to do. Let me just understand this. You had no right to go out there. You parked on their side of the street, and then you went outside to save the spot because your parents were on their way home.
Yeah,
Just a second. You have no right to do that. Zero. Don't you understand that?
No, actually, I don't understand that, Your Honor. How do I not have a right to save a spot?
You do not have a right to
my
save a
elderly
public
parents?
Just a second. You don't have that right. Because I'm here to tell you, you don't have a right to save a spot on a public street by standing in the street like this. Don't park here.
And I'm
you
not
have
like this.
I don't care whether you were hopping on one foot and chewing gum. You don't have the right to save a spot, and it makes it twice as obnoxious because you parked on their side of the street. Now, if there was a spot in front of their house that they could park in, and they said, no, I'm going to park in front of the defendant's house, I could say, you know what? That's nasty.
Well, that's
just that nasty. Now you have
this
both
whole
spots.
area was clear, okay? And there is a crossing road that comes all the way through here, and they could have parked.
Who made you the monitor of public parking?
No one.
Who do you think you are to be the monitor of public parking? Get back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now, Mr. Monitor of Public Parking, you come out and you're standing in the street to save the spot. She comes around to park there, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me what happened.
Well, she came around to park there, and then she hit me with her car.
Just a second. She came around to park there, and you were standing in the street.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, pay careful attention. Where did she hit you in the car before you moved?
She hit me in the knee.
In the knee. And so you jumped out of the way. No.
I fell on her car. I guess I was talking on the phone, and when she hit me in the knee, I fell on her car.
Baloney. That's not what this is. What was the damage to your car?
The damage.
That's baloney. That didn't happen because your elbow went on her car. Sir, if she hit you on the knee, she hit you on the knee with the front of her car, which is possible. By the way, you have medical records to show me?
I do.
I'd like to see them. The record should reflect that they closed this case, made no arrests in this case, and probably told everybody to behave themselves, which is what I'm doing.
I apologize.
Okay. What is this?
That is the ambulance bill for...
I want to see a medical record. I don't care if you went in an ambulance. I want to see what the doctor reported about your injury. Where is that?
I was unable to get that.
Well, that's too bad. Then I'm not interested in this. That's nonsense. Okay, how much did it cost to fix your car?
Here we are. Thank you.
And you had a $500 deductible?
Yes, ma'am.
$500 so far for the plaintiff. The counterclaim that talks about medical bills for this is dismissed. Okay, filing a false police report.
Yes, ma'am.
And the false police report you're talking about is what?
Mrs. Fieldgate initiated a confrontation with me.
When?
December the 22nd. I'm on my way to my vehicle. Mrs. Fieldgate is parked maybe like 10 feet behind me.
Put up the diagram again, please. Okay, just go over to the board. This is a different date, but I just want you to show me where she was and where you were.
Okay. Mrs. Fieldgate was parked right about here.
She parked right about there, which is opposite your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I'm parked here.
In front of her house?
Correct.
Okay, so you're both on the same side of the street, which is the defendant's side of the street. You're parked across the street from your house.
That's correct.
Got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
What happened?
And Mrs. Fieldgate, she comes out of her car. She's walking towards me. She's upset. She's yelling. And I don't remember all of the words that she was saying, but it was about parking. She was telling me I couldn't park where I was parked at. She's yelling. She's screaming. I'm trying to reason with her.
Could you step back then?
Yes. I'm trying to reason with Miss Fieldgate. I'm telling her it's a public street and I can park there. She's yelling and screaming and telling me that I can't. We're standing in front of one another. She's still yelling and screaming. I'm trying to reason with her. Next thing I know, she hits me on the hand. My reflex, I pushed her back. Next thing I know, she's still standing after I pushed Next thing I know, I guess she thought about it, and then she made herself fall on the ground.
Well, I don't know whether she did or not. Somebody said with regard to this that there's a video of this. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It was dismissed in court. It wasn't showed in court.
I don't care whether it's shown in court or not. I would like to see, because I read here that there is a security video of what happened on. If it's a video, you don't have to go up there, Ms. Fugate, because I can actually see it myself. So now, those are the two cars parked on the same side of the street, and they are parked on the defendant's side of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And your car is the...
Black car.
Your car is the black car, their car is the red car.
That's correct.
And that's Ms. Fugate getting out of her car. Okay,
Yes,
now I'd like to see the video.
She started to move up. So I thought I'd move my car a little closer.
Shh! Don't speak.
That's when she...
Shh! Okay, I'm going to see that again, please. And I'd like you to do it slowly at some point when they're right in each other's faces and getting very nasty. Oh, no, Miss Marshall, you can't do that.
It wasn't my intention.
Oh, just a second. Oh, it was absolutely your intention.
No,
it was absolutely your intention, and there was... Listen, you know, I'm an equal opportunity abuser. You can't do that. You can't do what I just saw. What I just saw is unreasonable behavior and totally inconsistent to being... Maybe, which I didn't see, slapped on the hand.
Right.
Maybe slapped on the hand. I didn't see it. But I did see you give her a substantial shove, and she is a person who has a certain infirmity, and she fell. And if she fell, and if she was injured, you're responsible. That's it. I saw you give her a shove that didn't, as you say, she decided to fall back down. No, madam. You hit her with such force that she fell backward. You say no, I say yes.
Yeah.
I'm a judge. I win.
Sherry and Jeffrey Marshall have accused their neighbors, Joseph and Jennifer Fugate, of damaging their car. Jennifer claims she was assaulted by Sherry over a parking spot.
Now, I saw the video. I don't have to have your mother testify. You should have not created an incident, Mrs. Fugate.
I didn't.
Yes, no, yes, just a second. Yes, you did.
I was walking toward the car, and I was to go to my car and pull up because she was starting to pull her car up. And if you look, she started to pull her car up first. And then when she come around the car, she's holding her cell phone yelling, "I got you on recording. I'm recording you because I'm going to show you a hate crime." Excuse me.
Just a second. Part of the problem is you and your son have to understand that you have no right to the parking spaces that are on a public street, just a sec, in front of your house. And your son clearly is a provocateur in this because he parks his car on their side of the street. I'm not getting, so what I'm doing is I am dissecting this case. If I have two unreasonable people, they're going to continue to make each other's lives miserable, and I can't control that. All I can do is hear each individual side. So, Mrs. Fugate, I have already said that Miss Marshall had no right, based upon what I saw, to push you with such force that you fell. I would like to see the medical report after the incident of December 22nd. May I see it, Kevin?
I was in the ER.
Okay.
And I had to wear a brace for a month on my arm and shoulder.
Did you have any out-of-pocket expense?
I paid $900 because it was Christmas holidays.
All I want to know is, did you have any out-of-pocket expense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And yes, I had...
Shh. What is this?
It's
I had to have a woman come in and clean my house.
Oh, I don't care about that.
That was out of...
I don't care about that. Return that to her. That's a cleaning bill for somebody to come in and clean. Let her clean. Okay, so filing a false police report and false arrest. Who was arrested?
I was.
And you were arrested, in my judgment, legitimately, because of based upon what I saw. So I'm dismissing...
That is not why they arrested me.
Oh, okay. So that is not the reason that you were arrested was not this.
The reason why I was arrested is because when she hit me and when I pushed her back, when they asked me what happened, I did not tell them that she had struck me.
Miss Marshall, is the reason you were arrested based upon the occurrence of December 22nd? That's easy.
Yes, it was.
Well, that's what I said. So don't say no. The reason you were arrested and claim falsely is as a result of the December 22nd incident.
But I was cleared.
I don't care whether you were cleared or not. I didn't clear you. The burden of proof in a criminal case is proof by beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? That is not the burden of proof in a civil proceeding. It's a much lower standard. I looked at that video. I believe that your conduct was unconscionable.
And not hers. You didn't see.
I think that her behavior was stupid. I don't, just a second. I don't see her hitting you. I see you walking away, Miss Marshall. I see you walking away, but I saw you give her a shove that, as you say, she decided to fall back down. No, madam. You hit her with such force that she fell backward. You say no, I say yes. I'm a judge, I win. So you... On your case, I said, absolutely. I don't believe him. I don't believe that the damage to your car resulted from his putting his elbow on it. I told him, you have absolutely no right to save a space for your parents. I'm awarding...
The case is malicious. From what you saw him do, that's what she did. She installed a camera, set me up, manured me in front of the camera. She knew what she was doing when she hit me on the hand.
Okay, very...
Oh, she knew.
Just a second. Just a second.
All of it is
Just
malicious.
a second. It's not your judgment that I'm concerned about, madam. I'm telling you, based upon what I saw, I'm awarding Mrs. Fugate, who I think she and her son both have to understand what a public street is. I'm awarding her $2,000 on her counterclaim for her injuries as a result of the assault. I'm dismissing part of your claim for false arrest. I awarded you the $500 that you asked for your deductible. You got your $500. It's coming off the $2,000 that I've awarded Mrs. Fugate for her injuries, judgment on the counterclaim for $1,500. Thank you very much. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I wouldn't have never maliciously pushed anybody.
I've been trying to tell this story forever.
I didn't know what else she was going to do. I was trying to protect myself.
It really does harden me that there are people out there that could go and just do this.
I have always been friendly. I never bother anyone. They keep bothering us.
We're really hoping that this does resolve the issue.
I just want them to leave us alone.
Bring them to Judy Justice.
Because she really does care.
You want to know how I know that the plaintiff wasn't being truthful when she said that I wasn't being malicious, it was an accident, I did not push her that hard? If that had happened to me and I was just trying to get someone away from me, and that reaction from the defendant of falling back, I thought she almost cracked her head on the curb. I would have said, I'm so sorry, oh my goodness, I would have gone down to her, I didn't mean to push you, let me help you up. The plaintiff just walked right back to her car, and you could see her face almost had a smirk on it, just walked right back to her car like she didn't even care. And that, to me, says you knew exactly what you were doing when you put your hands on that woman.
Yeah, and I didn't see a slap.
It could have happened.
I said it could have happened. It could have happened. I just didn't see it.
That reaction was
an
above and beyond.
overreaction.
Of course.
Yeah.
Marquis Marshall and Kai Booker are suing their former employer, Gary Zephyrin, for unpaid wages.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2071, Booker Marshall versus Zephyrin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zephyrin?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Zephyrin, you're being sued by these two people because they say they worked for you delivering packages, I believe, of auto parts. Is that right?
Yes, Judge.
And you didn't pay them. That's simple. You're in the auto parts business or just the delivery business?
Just the delivery business.
For how long?
For about a year.
Explain the business to me, since you're not in the auto parts business, just the delivery business. I have to understand the process and keep it short.
The process is I go to the store, pick up the car parts.
Go to what store?
Hyundai or Toyota.
So you go to the manufacturer?
Yes.
Or the dealership?
The dealership.
And get the part?
And get the part and deliver.
And you take them to independent garages that fix cars?
Yes.
Okay, now I understand. Your business is you're sort of a middle person between your local auto repair shop and the manufacturer who manufactures those parts or its dealer.
Yes, that's correct.
You don't make a markup on the part, you're just paid for your delivery service. Is that right?
Yes. I do not pay for the parts. All I do is drive and deliver the parts.
So the part has already been ordered and paid for?
Yes.
By the garage, by ABC Garage?
Yes.
They just send you to expedite the delivery?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much do you get paid for each delivery?
Well, it's not by each delivery. At this particular contract, it was between $120 and $160 a day.
And you said that this particular contract, what contract is that?
This is the car parts contract. Before the car parts, delivering the car parts, I was delivering packages.
But this operation was just car parts?
Yes, it was.
Now, at some point, these two people, how many vans do you have that deliver the parts?
Currently, I have one van.
What were they using to deliver the parts?
The van that I have.
And what did you do?
I worked in my 9 to 5.
You had a different job?
Yes.
What kind of job did you have?
I work at the Navy Yard.
So this is sort of a side gig?
A hobby, I would say.
Well, a hobby, $120, $160 a day is a nice hobby.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. And so based upon what you told me before, both of these people did in fact deliver parts using your van to various ABC garages.
They also used it for personal use too, yeah.
I don't care, but they used it because you didn't use it. You were doing your day job, according to you.
Yes.
And this was a side gig where these two people were working during the day to deliver the parts.
Mr. Marshall was working during the day.
Okay, let's just say Mr. Marshall.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Marshall sort of contracted with Miss Booker, or did you?
Mr. Marshall did.
You contracted with her. You agreed with her that you would split up this delivery. You would do it a couple of days, and she would do it a couple of days.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so you had no direct agreement with him. Miss Booker, look at me. My question is, did you have a direct agreement or ever meet or discuss salary with the defendant?
No, I did not discuss.
And you can sit down. Okay. Because you have to have some sort of an agreement with someone in order to sue them. You had no agreement with him. Whatever agreement you had with him, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And am I correct, Mr. Marshall, that you were supposed to be paid, according to you, a certain amount per day to make these deliveries? You decided you wanted to work 3 days a week and she would work 2?
Yes.
That's what I thought I read. Okay. How much was the defendant supposed to pay you a day?
$80, Judge.
So you had a deal for between $120 and $160 a day. You were paying him $80. You were working your day job. And so you were either going to get $40 or $80, depending upon the work that was done, right?
Correct.
And you were going to get that as a result of his work.
Yes.
Perfect. Now, this is what you say. You say that you all decided to go into business together. You bought this van. You paid for the insurance. He was going to work and make the deliveries. I'm telling you what you wrote.
Okay.
And if you have a problem with that, you'll tell me in a minute.
Okay.
He was supposed to work, make the deliveries, and not get paid until you paid off all your expenses, your startup expenses, the van, your insurance. Didn't you say that to me?
Yes, I
Or maybe I'm thinking about another case.
I did say
You did say that to me.
I just wanted to correct the we, because I bought the van and I paid up all the stuff.
I said you paid. I didn't say he paid. You paid the van. You paid for the insurance. He was going to drive. He says you were supposed to pay him $80 a day to do that because you had a full-time job. You were making your money. Your defense to it is that that was not the agreement. The agreement was that he would work for free until all the expenses were paid off that you advanced for the little business.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How much was the van?
$2,000.
So it was an old van.
Yes.
And how many months did you work at this job before you had a kerfuffle with him?
A year and 3 months.
Is that correct, sir, that he worked a year and 3 months?
It seems more about close to a year to me.
And when you say you worked for a year, was that 52 weeks a year?
Yes.
5 days a week?
Yes. Sometimes on Saturday.
From when to when?
I would work, depending
No, from what month and year to what month and year?
January 2021 until March or April 2022.
And in that year plus, how much money did you make? If you kept records of the days that you worked and how many hours you worked and how much you were supposed to be paid, then I could look at that. But I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Judge, may I explain?
You can try, but you're going to be unsuccessful, Mr. Marshall, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to try.
And later today.
He did, in fact, bring you a truck.
He didn't.
Never brought you a truck.
Never brought me the truck, never returned my money, anything.
Oh.
Marquis Marshall and Kai Booker claim their former employer, Gary Zephyrin, owes for unpaid contractor work.
Okay. In that year plus, how much money did you make?
Judge, it's a tough question because Mr. Zephyrin never paid me what he was supposed to pay me. He always came up with an excuse or a reason why.
I want to know how much money you made in that year.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Well,
Judge.
Then I can't help you. I have to know how much money he paid you, and I'm going to figure out from how much money he paid you, because even if I buy his defense, the van was only $2,000. So you have to sit down and figure out how much, unless you know, how much did you pay him?
Around $320 a week.
What do you mean around? I mean, you're a businessman.
He did not work 5 days a week. He's saying he worked 4 to 6 days a week. All he worked was 3 to 5 days a week.
I assume you were paid in cash?
Yes.
But you were paid during that year?
Yes.
Give me an idea in thousands how much you were paid.
Around $20,000.
$20,000?
Yes, Judge.
Around?
Yes, Judge.
So he did, in fact, pay you?
He didn't pay me everything he was supposed to pay me, Judge.
Well, how am I supposed to figure that out, sir? How am I supposed to figure that out? You keep records of what you delivered? Does he keep records? He doesn't have to prove your case. You have to prove your case.
Yes, Judge.
So do you keep records of when you worked and when you were paid?
Yes, I keep records of when I worked, Judge, but I did not keep records of what I was paid because we're always arguing. He never paid me the full $700.
That's not the reason you don't keep records. I'm sorry, Mr. Marshall. If you kept records of the days that you worked and how many hours you worked and how much you were supposed to be paid, then I could look at that. And I can ask him, and I assume he's a businessman. He would have the same records, and there may be a dispute, but I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Judge, may I explain?
You can try, but you're going to be unsuccessful, Mr. Marshall, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to try.
I appreciate it, Your Honor. Mr. Zephyrin was my friend. We went to the same high school, played on the same high school basketball team. I was the MVP, he was the team captain. Recently, his health has been declining. Because his health has been declining a year ago, I went to Mr. Zephyrin and I said, I'm a private contractor and I have different contracts with places. I think that you should do private contracts so you can spend more time with your kids and your wife. I apologize, but I'm emotional.
Well, don't get emotional.
I used to love
Mr. Marshall.
This gentleman.
Mr. Marshall, what I'm telling you is don't get emotional. This is not...
Okay.
It's a sad thing that you know each other for a long time, I hear, and that it's come down to a case in court. But you have to understand that in order for me to make a judgment, I need facts and information. And it's not as if you're saying to me that you delivered packages, which he acknowledges, and you were never paid. What you say is that you were shortchanged.
Yes, Judge.
And you have to be able to show me that.
I have the agreement of Mr. Zephyrin agreeing to pay me the $80 a day, and we came out with a pay scale.
Just a second. That's okay. I have to see when you worked and what you were paid. How am I supposed to figure out what it is that he owes you?
Because we both know that he only paid me $300 instead of the $700. We both know that.
Well, he paid you $20,000, so that's not true. According to you, he paid you $20,000. So if what you're saying that he paid you $300 and he owed you $700, is that what you're saying to me?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the last period of time that you worked for him?
Yes.
Okay, so that last period of time was when to when? Give me the month, give me the day.
January to March this year.
From January to March?
Yes, Judge.
Of 2022?
Yes, Judge.
You worked and you claim you were owed $700. That's what you just said. Is that correct?
I apologize for the
He
miscommunication,
said-
Judge. He only paid me 3 when he was supposed
just-
to pay me 7.
Just a second. You're not paying attention to me, sir. I said your claim is that he owed you $700.
He owes me more than 700.
No. What you said was he owed me $700 and he only paid me $300. Could you read that
yes,
back?
Yes.
Could you
yes,
read
Judge.
that?
Yes, Judge. You're correct, Judge.
Okay, then we don't have to read it back. That's why I have Whitney. You said he owed me 7, he only paid me 3, which means he owes you $400.
Correct, Judge.
And that was from a January to a March.
Yes, Judge.
Do you have any records of that, sir?
I paid him in cash, so I don't have any records of the payments that I was paying him. Mr. Marshall, he really never wanted me to keep records.
Okay, don't tell me what he wants. It's your business. Don't be foolish, sir. Did you have a dispute with him over this $400?
I did. We had many disputes.
Did you, in those disputes, refer to a part that got misdelivered by either the plaintiff or the person who he subcontracted with that caused you to lose a customer?
Yes.
And was that the reason that you didn't give him the $400? Just listen to my question. You had a dispute after all this time over a part, according to your answer, that was misdelivered to a customer,
Yes.
which caused you, according to you, to lose the customer. I don't know that, but that you indicated was the reason that this arrangement went south. So my question to you is that why you didn't pay him the $400?
No, it's not. He didn't return my van.
So the reason you didn't pay him the $400 that you acknowledged that you owe him was because he kept your van.
And my contract was canceled due to Cab Booker.
Okay. Did you get your van back?
Yes, I did.
How many days later?
2 days later. After I threatened to call the police.
Okay, you owe him the $400, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $400. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
You can't keep somebody's van for 48 hours and still expect your money.
He's lying about the fact that we stole the van and that we had it for those 2 days.
I think it was really bad that he's suing me over this. We've been friends since high school.
Document everything that you do when you do it. That would make better sense.
But hey, things happen. He got a new girlfriend and things happen.
Not a difficult situation. If you choose to pay an employee in cash, you have to keep records. Both parties should have kept some sort of records. Otherwise, what they were asking me to do was guess. This defendant actually made it easy for me because without his statement, I would have dismissed the case. He said the reason he kept the $400 because the plaintiff did not return his van right away, kept it for 2 days. Well, that's sort of retaliatory. How do you fix $400 as
cost for keeping
as a
a
cost?
van?
You know, that's ridiculous. That's self-help. Keep records,
You should.
especially if you want to come to court.
Exactly.
Christine Singleton is suing dog owner Kevin Free for vet bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2064, Singleton versus Free.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Singleton, your case is relatively simple. It is your claim that the defendant's unleashed dog bit your dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you incurred vet bills, and you want Mr. Free to be responsible for them.
That's correct.
Mr. Free says that it's true that his dog did bite yours on, I think, on the leg,
Yes, ma'am.
but that your dog was on his property and your dog was the aggressor. That's your position.
Correct.
Okay. And you were walking 2 dogs.
2 dogs and my nephew.
Nephew was a baby.
Yes, he was 3 years old, and my dog was 3, and the large dog that was bit, he was 12 at the time.
So you have a small rat terrier, I think. And your larger dog is what kind of dog?
A Siberian Husky.
And what kind of dog do you have, sir?
I have a Italian Mastiff, Cane Corso.
That's a big dog.
At the time, he was about maybe 12 months old, so maybe a little bit over a year. So he's bigger now, but yeah.
How much did he weigh?
At that time, probably about 80 pounds.
Tell me about your property, sir. You
Well,
have a
we stayed-
photograph of your property?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay. Here's a couple of them here.
Miss Singleton, this incident happened when?
Christmas Day of last year, around 12:30, right before we had Christmas lunch.
Weather was okay?
Oh, it was great.
And how close do you live to Mr. Free?
I don't live anywhere near him. I actually live in Stone Mountain, but I was going to my parents' house for Christmas, so we were walking around the neighborhood. He lives almost directly behind my parents' house.
And I see that while there are driveways here, the front lawn extends all the way to the street. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were walking both your dogs, and were they leashed or unleashed?
They were leashed.
Both?
Yes, they were both leashed.
And Mr. Free, you sort of acknowledged that both of her dogs were on leashes.
I've only seen one dog. I didn't see two dogs, and I didn't see a child either. It was her and a dog. So
The dog that you saw, what kind of dog was that?
it looked like a husky. Looked kind of like a wolf. So I'm not sure.
So just a second. So you saw a husky.
Correct.
Did you see the plaintiff?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you one more time.
Okay.
Was the husky on a leash?
I guess yes. I guess.
The answer is either yes or no.
I'm not sure. I wasn't,
okay, well,
I
if
wasn't
you're
looking at
not
the
sure,
leash.
she says the husky was on a leash.
Yeah, so I'm not going to deny her dog was.
Okay. And your dog at the time was on your property unleashed.
My dog was on my property, period.
Your dog, pay careful attention. Your dog was on your property
Correct.
unleashed.
Correct.
At 12:30. And tell him to make a circle where he was and an X where he saw for the first time Miss Singleton and her dog. X where you were, just where you were, you personally.
Okay.
And put a circle the place where you saw Miss Singleton for the first time. Okay. So you were in the front yard.
Correct.
And that looks about 30 feet away from where you saw Miss Singleton for the first time.
If that.
From here to here.
I'll say about 20 feet. You know. It's not as big as it looks on that picture. It's a pretty small yard.
I would say it's about 30 feet from where you put the X. It's all the way past the house. You're at the one side of the driveway. You have an entranceway to your house.
Correct.
And then you have, is this front a living room?
Yes, it is.
A living room, which is past that. And where you made a circle, which is a very large circle, is probably 10 feet away from the edge of the house.
Yes, that's where I know.
So I said it's about 30 feet away.
Okay.
And now I want you to put, can I have your pink Sharpie, please? Thank you very much. I want you to use this and put in this picture where your dog was at 12:30.
To get your understanding, you want
12:30. I want you to put a mark where your dog was immediately before you saw Miss Singleton and her
immediately
dog.
before. Thank you. You're not going to be able to see.
Okay, great. Great. So your dog, according to you, was right next to you, about 30 feet away from where Miss Singleton was when you saw her.
To be honest with
her
you,
dog.
he kind of moves around the yard. He doesn't sit still very much, so.
Well, you understand, Mr. Free, that even if your dog is on your property, you're supposed to maintain control of your dog all the time.
And which I
You
do.
understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that?
Yeah.
So if your dog is able to run 30 feet without being connected to you,
He didn't
just
run.
walk, cha-cha, tap dance,
Uh-huh.
pirouetted, however he got there, your dog got 30 feet away from where you were.
Correct.
Your 80-pound dog. Ultimately, her case comes down to she was walking her leashed dog. I haven't figured out whose fault it is yet. She was walking her leashed dog, and your dog ran, walked, pirouetted, cha-cha, whatever it did, to her dog out of your control.
Christine Singleton claims dog owner Kevin Free owes for vet bills from a dog fight.
Now, Miss Singleton was walking with her other dog and a 3-year-old. I want you to process that into your mind. And this is a 12-month-old, which is still a puppy. Still a puppy, but at 80 pounds...
Your Honor, there was no 3-year-old. I didn't see a 3-year-old.
Just a second.
Okay.
I don't care what you saw while you were busy putting together something for Christmas in your front yard.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't see it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If you didn't see it, it just means you didn't see it. She tells me she sees it. She remembers walking her 2 dogs. You only remember 1. She has 2 that she was walking at 12:30 Christmas Day. The fact that you only saw 1 means you weren't paying attention to where your dog was.
Or they wasn't there.
Well, that's pretty stupid, Mr. Free.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to carry 2 dogs and an infant down a neighborhood you don't even belong in? I mean, you don't know from?
Mr. Free, they're only going to take 1 voice.
I understand. Yeah.
They're only going to take 1 voice, and that's mine. Let me tell you why your argument is stupid. Because it doesn't make any difference whether she was walking 2 dogs or 4 dogs or 8 dogs. It doesn't make any difference whether she was walking with or without a 3-year-old. Ultimately, her case comes down to she was walking her leashed dog. I haven't figured out whose fault it is yet. She was walking her leashed dog, and your dog ran, walked, pirouetted, cha-cha, whatever it did, to her dog out of your control. Was not under your control because it was not leashed. Do you understand?
I understand.
Now, I can take away everything else. Not that I'm going to, because I believe that you were distracted. You didn't see it. And I believed her that she was walking with her 3-year-old nephew.
Yes, ma'am.
Nephew and another dog that you didn't see. But that's not the issue in this case, whether she was with another dog, another child, or with anybody else. The issue is, whose fault is it that a dog was out of control? So, now you're going to tell me what happened at 12:30 on Christmas Day, just so that Mr. Free doesn't think that I'm picking on him.
Okay.
Which I'm not.
Okay, I know.
You may think I am, but I'm not picking on him. You're walking with your husky.
Yes, ma'am.
On a leash.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
I was walking with my nephew, 3 years old.
No, don't, just listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me carefully.
Okay, just walk down the street.
I said you're walking. I got it in my mind.
Okay.
But so Mr. Free doesn't think that I'm being unfair to him, because he doesn't remember what he saw. You're walking your husky.
Okay, only him.
On the street. So your nephew didn't get hurt. Your rat terrier didn't get hurt.
That's correct.
Okay, so now you're walking your husky on the street, and?
Okay, and then all of a sudden we see a dog charging towards us. And
Who's we?
Oh, I called me, my nephew, and my dog's we.
No, now it's just I saw.
I saw a dog charging towards us. That dog and Leon got into an altercation, and then Leon turned around to try and kick the dog in the face, and he grabbed his foot and he let go.
Okay,
but then,
let's go much slower.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
You saw a dog charging towards you.
Yes, ma'am.
And
that dog got into an altercation with
your dog.
Yeah.
Tell me about that initial altercation.
At first, they were biting each other's muzzles.
Okay, so they were both biting each other's muzzles.
Yes.
Okay.
My dog turned around to try and, I guess,
No, don't tell me what he was trying to do. Your dog turned around.
He kicked the dog in the face.
Your dog kicked his dog in the face?
Yes. He grabbed his leg, punctured it, let it go. Leon kicked him again. This time he grabbed his other leg.
Okay, so your dog kicked that dog again?
Twice, yes.
His dog again?
Yes, ma'am.
And?
That dog that time grabbed his leg, had a good hold, and shook it immediately. And then that's when I knew his leg was broken.
No, don't show me pictures.
Okay.
First I have to find whose fault it is before I look at pictures and vet bills.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you saw his dog charging towards you, and your dog's name is Leon?
Yes, ma'am.
On a leash?
Yes, ma'am.
On a leash. But it's a big dog.
Yes, ma'am.
How much does it weigh?
Leon, 75 pounds.
So about the same as the defendant's dog?
Yes.
And it's a senior dog?
Yes, that is correct.
Has your dog ever had a history with another dog? I'm going to say it again. Has your dog ever had a history of an altercation with another dog?
No, ma'am.
Has your dog ever had a history of an altercation with another person?
No, ma'am.
And I assume if I asked you those questions, you would give me what answer, sir?
I would say no.
You would say no because?
Because my dog has never had any problems with any dogs.
With any dog?
Any dogs, person?
Any other person?
Correct.
So you would acknowledge, Miss Singleton, that I'm going to show you this photograph of Mr. Free's house. And what I'd like you to do is show me where, according to you, let's get her a different color pen. Do we have a different, well, we have, that's
This is
the same.
blue.
Okay. I'd like you to make a P, to just put a P where the dogs first made contact.
Okay. Okay. It's not on this photo.
Is it on this photo? Do you have a photo?
I do have a photo.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Would you please make
This is his home, and this is where it happened, right underneath the tree.
Put a P there.
Okay.
Oh, so what you're saying is, where you put the P, that the dog was in the street.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Were you in the street?
I sure was.
I would like you to put a D in this picture where you say, did you see Mr. Free?
I did not until he came and retrieved his animal.
Did you see where he came from?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you see anything being assembled in the yard?
Once we were leaving, yes.
And what did you see?
A basketball goal.
A basketball goal?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that what you were putting together, Mr. Free?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you show me where that was, please? It was here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mr. Free, you're putting something together. The first thing you hear is a kerfuffle, some sort of a...
No.
What do you hear? Dogs are animals. They're not as smart as you are. But when your dog charged out into the street, it could just as easily have gotten hit by a car. That would have been your fault. Your dog was out in a public street outside of your control, and it's a big dog, and you should be more careful.
Christine Singleton claims dog owner Kevin Free is responsible for injuries after his dog attacked her dog.
No, I saw my dog run across the yard. So.
And you saw the dog running across the yard.
Well, normally I really don't have a problem.
Let me explain something to you.
Yeah. Okay.
My job that I'm really good at is telling when people are peeing on my leg and trying to tell me it's raining.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, I could tell immediately from your body language that you were beginning to tell me a whole bunch of who shot John. So I suggest to you, Mr. Free, that if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Now, I want to explain to you why that's so important. Did you hear Miss Singleton? Miss Singleton actually said that her dog nipped yours in the face.
Correct.
She said that.
Correct.
She didn't have to tell me that. Okay. She said her dog not only nipped your dog in the face, because they were fighting muzzle to muzzle, but afterwards kicked your dog twice. Do you understand? That's what she said.
I heard that, yeah.
That's what she said about that. That's sort of, that's sort of surprising. That would seem to someone.
It surprises me that dogs can
What?
get up on their front legs and kick too. So I don't know what she's saying to you, but I don't know. I didn't see any kicking.
Listen to
the fight lasted like 3 seconds. It wasn't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you understand when you're not telling the truth, Mr. Free?
Well, I think what you read from me is me responding to a whole bunch of stuff that was said that didn't.
No, what me responding to you is your body English.
Okay.
That's me responding to you because you were putting together this thing, but you said it was here.
Correct. It was in the driveway. It's pretty big.
Well, this isn't a driveway, sir. That's grass. That's what you marked where you were. And you marked where your dog was in the
you
grass.
asked me where I was.
Just a second.
Not the basketball goal.
No, I asked you where you were.
Yeah,
and you
and
said
that's where I
here.
marked.
And then you just said to me, please read it back. Where were you? And you said, I believe he said he was in the driveway.
Correct. It was in the driveway.
I apologize. Excuse me.
Just a second. Driveway.
Okay.
Do you understand?
I do.
Eventually, it noodles its way out, sir. The same way it noodles its way out to, my memory is correct, in your answer you wrote down, you saw them for the first time in the street.
On the, what we call a curb. It's a small slope that comes up from down. Not all the way in the street, no.
No, here. You see what happens, Mr. Free?
Yeah.
What you just said to me belies credulity.
Well, I'm trying to be as
But just a
precise
second,
as I
but
can.
not
Excuse me.
because, you know, I've lived on this planet almost 80 years.
Congrats.
And if I have a choice between walking in the street and walking in that little dip that's designed to take rainwater away, I don't walk in that thing because I'll get killed. I'll break my legs. And you certainly don't walk in this little thing if you're walking two dogs and a child. You don't walk in that little drain that's carved out here to take rainwater away. You walk either on the grass, on everybody's grass,
Correct.
or you walk in the street.
Makes sense.
And you, sir, would have me believe that the plaintiff walked all the way around the block, walking on people's grass. Other than that, she would have to be in the street and decide, well,
Sometimes
I
it's
think I'm going to go
unavoidable,
up
but
on
no,
the grass in this
but no,
guy's
I wouldn't
house.
say that.
What?
Sometimes it's unavoidable, so I'm not saying that at all.
Sir, I have to tell you something.
Yeah.
You're going to pay her vet bills. Your dog was out of your control and was in the street, not on your grass. In the street. You had no control over your dog, an 80-pound puppy. Now, the dog could have, just playfully, knocked over the 3-year-old and hurt the 3-year-old. Could have, didn't. Got into a scuffle with a dog approximately the same size. Her dog was leashed, within her control. Your dog, you had to run from where you were putting this together and come and get your dog.
Your Honor,
That's what you say.
A dog under control doesn't manage to do 2 jump kicks and a bite.
No, just a second, sir. You can do that if you're on a leash. Her dog never left her hand.
Your Honor, the injuries was to the hind feet of the dog.
This isn't, Mr. Free, this is,
Okay.
Maybe your wife lets you get away with that, sir. I don't. This is not a tap dance. This is not a recital or a rehearsal. You made a picture of where you said this happened.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. That's what it's about. I believe that this occurred on a public street, and on the public street, you had no control of your dog. You decided to let your dog stay outside. You haven't had any trouble with your dog before, so you wouldn't have anticipated that your dog would run out into the street, because if your dog ran out into the street and a car hit it and killed it, whose fault would that be?
That would definitely be mine.
That would definitely be yours, right? Do you think that you might sue the person who hit your dog? You might try. You might try. You might say, oh, my God, they should have been going slower. Oh, my God. Do you understand? You're the owner. Dogs are animals. They're not as smart as you are. But when your dog charged out into the street, it could just as easily have gotten hit by a car. That would have been your fault. But under those circumstances, you would have said it's the car's fault. Your dog was out in a public street outside of your control, and it's a big dog, and you should be more careful. If you want to keep your dog outside while you're putting something together and keep the dog on your property, put down a stake, put the dog on a lead, and let the dog stay outside with you. But if you let a 12-month-old, 80-pound dog run loose and it runs into the street, you, sir, are responsible for the consequences. What was your vet bill?
It was $1,832.64.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't think that I was 100% responsible.
I'm glad it was swift and easy, honestly.
From my perspective, it lasted for about 3 seconds.
I was trying to fight with this man for a while. I'm glad it's over.
Might have happened in that 3 seconds, but it was too fast for my eyes.
Honestly, it was kind of traumatizing, especially since I had a 3-year-old with me, and I had to quickly think and just pick him up before the dog got him.
I think they just fought and my dog won.
Bring the Judy Justice, baby.
I watched the show. I know how she gets down, you know?
So, as you know, we have 2 large, pretty docile golden retrievers at home that are now 8 and 12 years old. But even when we have family that comes over, or friends with little children that are curious, that like to come up and pull on the ears a little or play with them, you have to be careful. They're 80 and 90-pound dogs. We've never once had a problem with either of them. But you just never know. You can't control a dog that's 90 pounds, but they're just big. They could knock them over by accident with their tail, just so excited.
Yeah, so you have to be careful. You have a responsibility when you have a big dog.
100%.
Chào mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về cô gái đang ngồi trên chiếc ghế nha. Bây giờ thì các bạn sẽ cùng mình tô màu cho bức tranh nha. Anh Moji. Đầu tiên là mình sẽ tô màu mái tóc nha. Bây giờ mình sẽ tô màu đến gương mặt nha. Trước vậy thì mình sẽ chọn tô màu hồng nhé. Đau bụng quá. Mọi người ơi, mình đã hoàn thiện xong cho bức tranh tô màu rồi nha. Đây chỉ là thành quả. Cảm ơn các bạn đã cùng mình theo dõi. Video của mình cũng đã kết thúc. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.